Chapter 621. Perfect Ultimate Form. Logically speaking, a nuclear bomb exploded midair would have been more powerful and caused more destruction. But Su Qi still chose to let it hit the ground. Destructive power was not his main target. Its current power was already enough. As for how to dodge it, the black cat had already emitted a strong fluctuation, wanting to use the last of its strength to create a defensive space. But it was very pessimistic. After all, the power was extremely lethal, and although it would have been a mere puff of breath in its prime, its current strength simply could not withstand it. Could only sacrifice itself, doing its best to protect Su Qi. However, Su Qi's voice rang out, "Old Deng, don't resist." The next moment, Su Qi also converted all his resources, a massive amount of spiritual energy instantly flooding into his body, suddenly illuminating the previously imperceptible path of the angel series. In that instant, Su Qi felt a divine power circulating within him. At the same time, Holy Light Corridor was directly activated. The black cat felt a strange fluctuation covering it, its expression flickering with surprise. This power, this aura, damn, it was so similar to its archrival's clan. It did not resist either. It was prepared to enter the Holy Light Corridor together with Su Qi. Meanwhile, the Abyss Bishop noticed this, his eyes coldly fixed on Su Qi. Numerous demons also turned their gazes over. "Why are you looking at me?" Su Qi lightly smiled at the demons, shifting his gaze towards the nuclear bomb that was now plummeting down, roaring above him. Looking at the fireworks, and the demon's eyes reflected the falling nuclear bomb, the terrifying glow of the fire flickering. In that moment, no one tried to flee. They knew they couldn't escape. There was no need. They all did something peculiar. That was, each one took out a knife, without any hesitation thrusting it deep into their own hearts. The Abyss Bishop also calmly looked at Su Qi, making the same move. "Su Buxian, right? We will meet again." Then he also fiercely plunged the knife into his own heart. Boom! An endless explosion blossomed, covering the area completely. A massive mushroom cloud soared into the sky, centered right here. Everything was being easily destroyed, annihilated, turned to ashes. Only Su Qi and the black cat inside the Holy Light Corridor were watching this scene. "It seems I underestimated the power," Su Qi murmured. "Do you think those heavenly destiny people could withstand it?" "Very well, you also know the words withstand it." The black cat darkened its face. "Fortunately, the distance I transmitted is quite far." "And?" The black cat looked at Su Qi. "This ability of yours reminds me of some old acquaintances. Could you possibly be?" "You guess." Su Qi was playing riddles. He knew he couldn't hide the use of some powers from a powerful divine race like the black cat. The black cat narrowed its eyes, unaffected by any external forces. A completely isolated space. A super rare ability rumored to be possessed only by those with the top-level angel bloodline. "Exactly who are you?" "I've already introduced myself, haven't I?" "I'm nobody," Su Qi said with a light smile. "I'm just a person who doesn't seek trouble, doesn't look for problems, and is the sect hierarch of a hidden leisure organization, the Hustlers sect." The black cat narrowed its eyes. "Well, Hustler Kid, you're in big trouble. Do you know what their actions just now meant?" Su Qi knew the black cat was referring to all the demons plunging knives into their hearts. He murmured, "Maybe they also wanted to threaten me with death, begging me not to kill them." The black cat looked vacant. "You can only laugh about it now, but what if I told you that you just got hit by that terrible curse from the Abyss Bishop?" "A curse?" Su Qi paused. "Honestly, I didn't feel it. Of course, some curses are very dangerous, terrifying, and eerily silent, and can also cross spaces, lock onto targets, inevitably catching you off guard." The black cat sighed. "And even if you leave here, it will still exist. Just like the anxiety curse you encountered in the Anxious Land." The black cat still believed the anxiety curse that Su Qi encountered was just a curse commonly found in that place, oblivious to the fact that it was a terribly dangerous curse personally engraved by the god of anxiety. "In any case, be careful no matter what. The black cat also let out a breath of relief, watching the gradually subsiding explosion. Although it easily destroyed everything, at least that was dealt with. Next, they just had to find that door and send all the Destiny people straight out. But Su Chi casually said, "No rush. There's still one person left to deal with." The black cat frowned. "Who else?" Su Chi directed his gaze toward the distance. And the black cat also shifted its gaze there, sensing a terrifying aura. This was not just any terror. It was an extraordinary and irresistible aura, an utterly transcendent power being emitted. Even the horrifying heartbeat could be heard in the ears. And amidst the endless black smoke, a figure seemed to stretch out, slowly lifting its back, accompanied by the snapping sounds of bones. Its entire body seemed to be advancing, its heart beating like a dull drum. With every beat, the surrounding dust puffing outwards. What exactly is this presence? The black cat looked on with immense apprehension. "Have you forgotten?" Su Chi murmured. "You've trapped it with space before." The black cat's pupils shrank sharply, turning its head with a jolt. "Are you talking about that T0 cultivated by the abyss? How could it?" Su Chi gently said, "I've said before, every time the infected area shrinks, they transform once, and also." Chapter 622. He already had intelligence. From the very beginning, it had been silently following us, and during the recent explosion, it even had a premonition, hiding behind all the monsters. Along with its already evolved strong body, it forcibly withstood it. The most important part is, the monster tide was destroyed by the nuclear bomb, and it absorbed all the absorbable T-virus blood energy fragments. Now it has become an unimaginably powerful existence. Su Chi watched as the dust settled, revealing the perfect body gradually coming into view. Red and blue stripes outlined in an extraordinary form of art. Every inch of flesh sculpted to perfection, brimming with terrifying strength. And its eyes also crossed the endless dust, staring at Su Chi and Black Cat. Those profound, black hole-like pupils had no emotion, showing no signs of feeling. As if void of everything, yet seeming to engulf them. Black Cat said solemnly, "This really did create a monster, a true conglomeration of blood demon power. It's just unknown what it, having just acquired primitive intelligence, wants to do right at this moment." And then the next moment, whoosh, T-Zero's figure instantly disappeared, crossing dozens of meters in the blink of an eye, directly lunging at them. "So fast!" Black Cat exclaimed in surprise, but didn't move because they were still within the holy light corridor at this moment. Although T-Zero displayed incredibly formidable strength at this moment, it still couldn't harm them. And Su Chi also looked at T-Zero. "Is this the perfect life form that has been created?" T-Zero appeared a bit puzzled at this moment, clutching its own claws, not understanding why it couldn't attack these two. But its stare was fixed on Su Chi, as it launched another attack, feeling the intensely terrifying aura emanating from Su Chi, wanting to hunt Su Chi. However, no matter how it thrashed about, it just couldn't land an attack on Su Chi. Speaking of which, how long can this space last? Black Cat was aware that although such special abilities were powerful, they generally had limitations. "Roughly 3 more minutes, Su Chi paused. 3 minutes. Black Cat spoke solemnly. "That's enough. Once it ends, I'll use spatial ability to teleport you away. I'll stay here to stall. You should immediately find the gate and leave with the others." The gate should have appeared by now. Su Chi sketched a smile, giving a thumbs up. "Noble deeds, Cat Lord, but it won't be that troublesome." After that nuclear bomb went down, with Xiaomeng's modified built-in cheats in effect, he now possessed a terrifying amount of resources and equally terrifying quantities of T-virus blood energy fragments. No matter which kind, both had exceeded normal conditions. However, before Su Chi could take action, this T-Zero suddenly seemed to sense something, its gaze suddenly turning towards the distant sky dome, and then those profound eyes seemed to see something, becoming extremely agitated. Then suddenly, with a big leap, it swiftly left the place, running towards the distance. What happened to it? Black Cat watched this scene, puzzled. Why do I see desire in its eyes? It was also a non-human creature. Just in that moment, Black Cat felt a kind of bursting desire emanating from T-Zero. It's a being that's just acquired intelligence, yet possesses extraordinary strength. Its strength derives from what you just mentioned, the blood demon. Its instincts have already let it feel the hypocrisy of this world. Su Chi spoke analytically. So right now, its target is very clear. Black Cat's expression suddenly changed. The gate! It's found the gate to leave. It wants to leave this place. Pursuing freedom is the instinct of life. Su Chi snapped his fingers. We don't even have to look ourselves, we can just follow. They left the holy light corridor. Black Cat immediately activated spatial ability. Let's go. We better catch up fast. I'm worried the others are also near the gate. If that guy goes on a rampage, they absolutely won't last. Su Chi wasn't in a hurry, letting the spatial teleportation proceed. He was in the process of merging all the T-virus fragments. Honestly, following that nuclear bomb, no matter how low the yield, it would still produce an extremely high quantity. And not to mention, with the monster tide having evolved to the next stage, the explosion rate increased, coupled with Xiaomeng's cheats. At this moment, Su Chi's synthesis, the tiny bit of strength in the countless fragments integrating, he could feel what this terrifying quantity would become something extraordinary. T-Zero's speed was faster than they had imagined, and even as the Black Cat constantly used space to move forward, they soon lost sight of it. Only Su Chi could guide it now. Don't worry. That guy has gained intelligence and is somewhat different from other monsters, generally not attacking people easily. Black Cat? So, was that just coming over to perform acrobatics for us? Su Chi smiled and did not answer. He knew why, as he currently carried a large, and soon, they also saw a large door hanging in midair in the completely covered infected area in the distance. It bore a thin mist, and through the mist, one could see vitality and colors unlike here. That was the key to leaving this gate world. At the same time, they saw other heavenly destiny people each standing on rooftops, as well as numerous demigod figures. However, each of them had a solemn and tense expression, watching like they saw a monster, the figure standing in front of that door. T-Zero's body was floating in midair, standing still, staring at the door before it. Look, what a terrifying learning speed. It only took minutes, not only to master the power within its own body, but it can also effortlessly levitate, Black Cat remarked. At that moment, T-Zero suddenly charged towards the misty door, only to be violently knocked back. It did not fall to the ground. Instead, it fiercely stopped itself mid-air. Again, it burst out with strength, heading towards the door. Boom, boom, boom. Time and again it charged, and time and again it was knocked back. Su Chi and Black Cat teleported directly in front of the crowd. Anan looked somewhat shocked to see them, as the power of the recent mushroom cloud was extraordinarily startling, and they had even thought for a moment that they had perished along with it. Before he could speak, "You guys survived!" Black Cat exclaimed, looking at the crowd. The people were somewhat stunned. Wait, shouldn't that be our line? Anan was just about to ask. But Bei Xinxing already calmly spoke up. Let's focus on the present for now. What is this monster in front of us? Bei Xinxing gently said. We were just waiting for the door to open when this monster suddenly appeared. Its horror is unstoppable, yet it doesn't seem to intend to attack us. This is a life form that has gathered numerous genetic fragments. The perfect individual evolved from those zombies, Su Chi explained. And its purpose is likely to leave. Su Chi stroked his chin. It's just a bit stubborn, clearly understanding it's futile, yet still continually trying. Every time it struck, its body suffered severe recoil, but no matter how severe the injury, it recovered in the blink of an eye. This terrifying healing ability was indeed an exceptional body. So what do? We can't get close to it like this, Jeline said with a heavy gaze. Once we get close, it can easily crush us. Black Cat raised his head. It can't leave. As an entity from the old days, trying to leave is simply impossible. And Nan shuddered upon hearing this, his eyes slightly dimming. Yet Su Qi watched this scene. Impossible? Who says it's impossible? Su Qi looked at the terrifying amount of resources he held. As long as enough is paid, nothing is impossible. Chapter 623. Leave. Boom. 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 T0 was still furiously ramming the mist gate in front of him. Freedom was right before its eyes, but it could not escape. At the same time, the terrifying storm sweeping across the entire city was howling, whipping up one violent wind after another. The infection was spreading wildly. Massive amounts of flesh were swept into the storm, seemingly to give birth to various new monsters. But for a long time it bore no fruit. It might be because Su Qi had been killing too ruthlessly just now, leading to an undersupply for the production line. However, compared to that reason, Su Qi instead believed it was because he had drained all the T-virus blood serum, which was the core, and numerous zombies, hunters, and night demons could come back to life due to this strength. And now, the vast amount of T-virus that the entire city could produce was already in Su Qi's hands. Not only that, but also multiplied by 10 times under Xiaomeng's modifications. Nevertheless, whether it was synthesizing or transforming all resources, it took a certain amount of time. Su Qi was seated against the rooftop wall, his eyes slightly closed, coordinating and synthesizing various resources. Upon a sign from Black Cat, everyone also refrained from disturbing him. "Brother Su, what is he doing?" Jeline asked doubtfully. Bei Xinxing spoke softly. "This guy just mentioned waiting for a while. It seems he has a way to stop the monster. Let's just wait." Although Su Qi had revealed nothing, based on his understanding of the guy, he always struck unexpectedly and would come up with something, even when it seemed like there was no solution. Jeline looked towards the gate and T0, which was still furiously hammering at it. Could it be that Su Qi's sequence ability is spiritual ability, and he wants to meditate to communicate? You're overthinking it. That thing is extremely dangerous. If translated to the present world, it certainly possesses nearly the equivalent rank of Sequence 6 in strength, Bei Xinxing said indifferently. His spiritual power is higher than you might expect. You two keep chattering non-stop. Black Cat, perched lightly on the edge of the rooftop, said, "He's just absorbing resources, converting them into spiritual energy, elevating his sequence ability." Absorbing resources? And Nan was somewhat puzzled. But isn't that process very fast? I took less than a second to convert all of my resources to spiritual energy. Black Cat glanced at him. Didn't you notice just now? The world-ending explosion? Black Cat groomed its fur. That nuclear bomb was dropped by Su Buxian himself. In other words, he now possesses the terrifying resources of the entire massive wave of monsters. The three of them were slightly shocked. Black Cat sighed as well. However, I think it's still not enough after all. A simple calculation shows that the monster in front of us is also approximately of the same magnitude. Plus, Su can only elevate his sequence ability. He can't become an aggregate like T0 monster. Regardless, all your hopes are with him now. The three grew silent, refraining from speaking so as not to disturb him. And at this very moment, Su Qi could only say that all of them had guessed wrong. He was now fully engaged in synthesizing the blood serum, which was the most critical thing. A mass of blood serum was frantically converging, the liquid condensing and churning, a trace of extraordinary strength gradually expanding, with golden blood slowly materializing. And almost 3 minutes later, ding! Synthesis successful. Name: Super Perfect Legendary T Blood Serum. Type: Ancient Relic. Effect: Unknown. Can it be taken out of the old world? Yes. Note: please be aware, this potion contains extremely dangerous substances. Do not inject it lightly before reaching the strength of Sequence 6. This prompt was not coming from the watch. The watch seemed to be blocked. While the prompt was clearly adorned with the pattern of ancient paradise and the aura was much stronger than before, as if it was guiding something. The guidance of ancient paradise is more active than before, which means that the predecessor of the paradise was indeed buried in the old days. But let's put that aside for now. Su Qi's gaze returned to the vial of golden blood. This is indeed an ancient relic. Just as Su Qi had thought, anything that could affect everyone's fundamental strength could be called an ancient relic, and this was no exception. This was also why Su Qi had been dedicated to collecting this object. After all, he liked to prepare in advance, and there was no lead on an ancient relic for advancing to Sequence 6, but now this object was just right. Moreover, it also had a different threshold, requiring one to achieve the strength of Sequence 6 to be able to inject it for use. Sequence 6 was extremely powerful, with spiritual energy ranging from millions to tens of millions, marking the threshold of the extraordinary and a rank creating a huge chasm. And Su Qi slowly opened his eyes. Everyone instantly became alert. Is it done? The longer they stayed in the infected area, the closer they were to death, especially since the storm in the distance was rapidly expanding. Ah no, I just accidentally fell asleep, Su Qi said, touching the corner of his mouth where there was drool. The others? Even Black Cat widened its eyes. You've got to be kidding. Stop joking. Don't rush, Su Qi yawned. I'm starting now. He closed his eyes again. Bei Xinxing said calmly. Indeed no rush, although Su Buxian often says things that give people headaches. He won't drop the ball when it's crucial. Is that so? It seems you still don't know him well enough. Black Cat let out a breath. Because his spiritual energy is just now starting to surge. Bei Xinxing's expression stiffened. And after the synthesis was completed, Su Qi began to integrate a massive amount of resources into his body. An astonishing quantity of spiritual energy rolled in. Unlike what everyone conjectured about that wave of resources from the monster tide, he possessed much more than 10 times. Chapter 6:24. And these spiritual energies significantly illuminated the path of the Angel Series, increasing the power of his Angel Series ability constantly. To be honest, this terrifying resource was something Su Qi had anticipated ever since he entered the deathmatch. After all, the whole plan, whether it was collecting resources in the infected area, gathering monsters, or finally exterminating them, had been devised after discovering all the right conditions. And the real goal, besides the blood serum, there was something else. That was to take some people from the old world with him. Previously in the last gate world, Su Qi had already discovered something. Although the existence trapped by the old days in the gate world couldn't leave by opening the gate, trying to leave would result in a rebound, crashing into the wall like what's happening in front of them right now. They couldn't leave at all. But the Black Cat had mentioned in the office before that wanting to leave would be hindered by the old days. The more traces one had, the greater the hindrance. Su Qi wanted to try, after strengthening the Holy Light Corridor to a certain extent, to see if he could take a few people with him. What he was doing was going against the heavens, breaking unbreakable taboos from the unchangeable rules and patterns. Whether it was Xiao Meng's modification of the Heart of Divine Weapon, or the plan Su Qi was preparing now, it was the same. Boom, boom, boom. The impact of T0 grew more intense as it also felt the terrifying storm behind it. A large number of nearby buildings were being blown apart by the horrifying wind and then collapsing. The Black Cat had to create a space to dodge. But the space was already shaky. The horrifying storm continued to advance and expand, utterly unstoppable. It's in a hurry, Bei Xinxing noted about that T0. Because once the deathmatch ends, it'll be reset to 0. The Black Cat softly said, This is the rule of the ancient gate, it feels it too, so it's desperately longing for the outside world. At this moment, time was passing by every second. The Black Cat could feel Su Qi's spiritual energy gradually increasing, but it quickly exceeded its probing range. It raised an eyebrow. Shouldn't you stop already? Why haven't you? How much resource had this guy stored? And the terrifying, world-destroying storm was already coming with unstoppable force. Everyone could feel the bizarre and astounding aura within. Simultaneously, the sanctuary space had already shattered into columns fixed on the ground. Everyone could only tightly grip the columns, their bodies even floating. What do? We can't hold on much longer. The storm is too strong, and I have no spiritual energy left to keep up. Mom, I'm going on a long trip. The only one still keeping its shape was T0, still ramming furiously. Besides, there was Su-Chi. The black cat had used a large portion of its spiritual energy to protect him, but now it was also about to shatter. Damn it, brat. Lord Cat, can't keep up anymore. In every sense, it had exhausted itself. And Su-Chi seemed to hear its shout. His eyebrows twitched as he slowly opened his eyes. Sorry, I fell asleep again. With this remark, even the demigods couldn't maintain their composure. It was one thing for Lord Cat to be unreliable, but at least everyone else was normal. How did such a divine gold end up among the younger ones they contacted? You damn it! Bei Shenxing gritted his teeth. Stop joking. Go find an opportunity. It's the final moment. This is our last chance to leave through the gate. Sigh. Su-Chi snapped his fingers. I said, don't rush. The moment he snapped his fingers, at that instant, all of the terrifying storms that were approaching, as if frozen in time, disappeared into oblivion. Everyone was shocked. Although they could see the terrifying storm behind them, this instant they suddenly weren't affected at all. Now it's just that monster left, Bei Shenxing reminded. Don't worry about it. Su-Chi pointed with his hand. A staircase of holy light directly connected to the gate, as stable as a mountain. Su-Chi waved his hand. All right, go. ? All Destiny people were stunned. Is it that simple? What else do you want? Should I get you an elevator? Bei Shenxing was about to ask further, but Su-Chi stretched out his finger and twisted it. What are you doing? I'm counting down. There seems to be less than 20 seconds left. Damn. Why didn't you say so sooner? All Destiny people immediately stepped forward, bidding farewell and thanking their many demigod mentors as they left. Bei Shenxing and Jeline also stepped up, quickly approaching the T0 looked at the holy light steps and wanted to touch them but couldn't, only watching as one Destiny person after another entered the gate world. There was no rage of impotence in its eyes, only weakness, hoarseness, and the despair of pain. And Nan watched this scene, also clenching his fists, his eyes filled with distraught. Don't lose hope. There will be a chance. And Nan bowed his head, sighed, and forced a smile. You don't need to comfort me, Senior. I know my. He suddenly stopped speaking, because the one comforting him wasn't another but Su-Chi. And Nan's eyes widened. No. Why are you still here? Weren't there only 20 seconds left? Su-Chi smiled. I tricked them. And Nan fell silent. Black Cat was not surprised. I knew it. So you staying behind meant you wanted to do something. Su-Chi calmly replied. Of course, to take some helpers and leave. ? Black Cat. What are you talking about? I stirred up a bit of trouble outside. Su-Chi stretched out his finger and indicated a small gap. So I really need some support right now. No, I'm not asking about these trivial things. Black Cat raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? I told you before. Leaving this place comes with a price. Facing the insane devouring of the old days you. Just hold on. Isn't that enough? Su-Chi interrupted. Annan. Do you remember what I told you before? What do you think now? And Nan's palms were trembling. He hadn't expected Su-Chi to be serious. In the next moment, he clenched his fists. I want to try, even if it costs me my life. Good, that's the spirit. Su-Chi paused. Wait, are you serious? Black Cat was surprised. How certain are you? If it's not feasible, I won't allow this kid to go and die with you. Humph. Su-Chi snapped his fingers. Let me experiment first, then you will know. He disappeared on the spot. Under everyone's gaze, Su-Chi's figure directly appeared in front of T0. Now, the opponent looked somewhat pitifully desperate, powerless, and unwilling. But when Su Qi approached, it had no reactions, as if it had given up struggling. Su Qi said gently, "I can take you out, but from now on you must recognize me as your master, whether you can understand or not. Give me an answer in 10 seconds. This newly born entity, unrelated to evil or justice, at the moment it gained consciousness, it was merely a blank slate beneath its intricate body. And whether T0 really understood or not, it slowly raised its head, its eyes reflecting some light like obsidian. Then, slowly nodded. Then, Su Qi placed his hand on its shoulder, a holy light mark engraved upon it. Then grabbed it, forcefully swung around and hurled it towards the gate world. Set off right away. T0? And this time, T0 directly entered the gate. A massive amount of holy light actually protected it, disappearing into the fog. And Su Qi's spiritual energy was greatly consumed. After all, taking someone along also comes with a great cost, if not for his own terrifying resources. Otherwise, only Annan's presence would have probably been included in the plan. And Su Qi, hovering mid-air, looked towards Annan. Now, are you ready? Chapter 625. Old Days Corridor. Annan looked on in shock as the T0 was thrown in. Even the black cat was shocked, its eyes wide. This kid actually succeeded. Annan's previously heavy heart was now pounding excitedly. Brother Su, I'm ready. He then looked seriously at the black cat and the many demigods who wanted to speak but hesitated. Regardless, this is an opportunity. Regardless of life or death, I'm willing to try it. The demigods. Having reached this point, the demigods looked at the black cat. Annan was the son of the wind god, one of the 9 most powerful leaders of the god's palace. He was someone they needed to protect. And if something were to really happen, they wouldn't be able to explain it to that senior. Annan hadn't moved yet. He also looked toward the black cat. He knew that ignoring everything would also be an irresponsible act for everyone. Don't rush. The black cat's eyes narrowed. Even it itself was somewhat uncertain now. It seemed to see that Su Qi had expended a lot, and it captured various details. It looked confident in leading the way out, though it would be costly. It didn't immediately respond to Annan but turned to Su Qi and solemnly warned. Forcibly taking the burier of the old days is an ominous taboo. Su Qi merely smiled slightly, giving no response. The black cat narrowed its eyes slightly, no longer continuing the warning, and instead asked another question. Do you still have the strength? Su Qi paused a moment. Why? Do you want to come too? If there's enough, the black cat said with focus. I have something to entrust to you. Su Qi didn't respond, just looking into the distance. Then hurry. If it's delayed any further, we really won't have time. The wristwatch was already counting down. The great escape was about to end, and the door would close as well. The distant storm was about to engulf them, already turning into an abyss vortex, swallowing everything. However, the terrifying storm, though about to engulf the area, was unaffected by this holy light space. Poof! The black cat suddenly spit out a mouthful of blood, opened its mouth wide, and a light ball flew straight towards Su Qi. The demigods, upon seeing this light ball, were each startled. Senior Black Cat! The black cat shook its head, signaling for them to be quiet. This seemed to be something extraordinary. The demigods wanted to say something, but they kept their mouths shut. The black cat wiped the blood from its mouth with its paw, weakly saying, Carry it if you can. Consider it a repayment for your help. Of course, if you really can't take it out, then abandon it. Su Qi held the light ball in his hand, his gaze flickering slightly. This wouldn't happen to be your offspring in the womb, would it? The black cat nearly spewed another mouthful of blood. You damn! However, Su Qi retracted it, smiled, and enveloped Annan in holy light. All right, let's go then. Goodbye, fellow demigods and Lord Cat. I hope that when everyone escapes and meets again, we won't be in such a sorry state. And Su Qi looked at Annan. What about you? Are you ready? Annan was just about to speak. Don't answer so fast. I'm asking you, Su Chi said smilingly. Are you ready to witness the grandeur of the Hustlers sect in the present world? Ready to enjoy a top-tier stage others can't experience as soon as we step out? Anan nodded earnestly. Of course. Good. Su Chi nodded satisfactorily. Congratulations. You are now a member of the Hustlers sect. Then he stepped towards the door. The two vanished into the mist within the door. Simultaneously, the holy light staircase slowly disappeared. The black cat and others suddenly stared at the steps, for they had just realized. The specks of holy light on the stairs were actually millions of stars, undisturbed amid the raging wind. Magnificently splendid. That guy is rather flashy. The black cat, somewhat recovered, couldn't help but comment. Wasting spiritual energy on such a thing. After the great escape ends, it won't remain at all. It shook its head, unable to understand that guy's thought process. His body swayed slightly. The demigods quickly came over. Senior Black Cat. It's nothing. The black cat stabilized itself and said, I just need to rest for a while. One demigod sighed gently. This isn't something that can be recovered from quickly. You were too impulsive in giving away your second body, cutting your strength in half. The black cat chuckled lightly. But I think it was well worth it. This victory is all thanks to that kid. Those guys from the abyss will struggle under extreme punishment for a long time. While the second body is still very weak, as long as it's successful, no matter where the main body and the second body are, how far apart, whatever the restrictions, I can transfer my consciousness. The demigod still shook his head. But it's not guaranteed to succeed. Once buried in the old days, the price you paid, Senior Black Cat. The black cat waved his hand. No need to bring it up again. I trust that kid. Now I can even sense that the second body is still alive. This puts us a step ahead of the abyss, becoming a divine being who descended to the present world ahead of time. And I can also help that kid since he's in trouble. The black cat calmly smiled. Let him see, in front of this Lord Cat. His troubles are nothing. The demigods. Senior Black Cat bragged again, but it was not wrong. Catching this opportunity, Senior Black Cat might be the first to leave the old days among the divines. Although there is no divine strength, just a second body and consciousness transfer, it was already enough. Chapter 6:26. At that moment, the storm devoured everything here. But the gate also slowly closed. The massive figure of the mechanical black and white bear appeared above the sky dome, and it was pronouncing judgment. At the same time, it slowly raised a sun. Everything that had just been destroyed was being reconstructed, restored anew. And at this moment, the demigods suddenly looked towards the starfire path in the middle, their gazes changing with a touch of astonishment. Wait! Why hasn't this disappeared yet? At that moment, Su Chi was walking through the gate corridor, and to tell the truth, he didn't feel much pressure within Nan's words. However, with that light ball, he could distinctly feel the old days around him like a black hole, trying to devour him. That guy really did amplify his own strength. But it wasn't a big problem. Su Chi explosively released a great amount of starfire, and now he didn't even need to snap his fingers. With just a thought, millions of starfires freely flew out. And once the starfires appeared, the old days were captivated, and massive amounts of black and white strange shadows all lunged at these starfires. But no matter how hard they tried, they could not devour even a bit of them. These starfires existed eternally, not worn down by anything, and Anan couldn't see this scene. He was taken into the holy light corridor to minimize the burden of being noticed by the old days. At the same time, Su Chi didn't forget to bring out a large number of the Shadow Army to scrape the clearance rewards. This time the Gate World was indeed advanced, a substantial leap. The key rewards that were burst forth would surely be more than before. Moreover, following this progress, in the next Gate World, Su Chi did not rule out the possibility of coming into contact with the core of the Dark Zone. The demon eye emerged in his mind, seeing demons, chains, and countless people's so-called most terrifying, unspeakable core. Soon, Su Chi was nearly at the exit. Although there were many dangerous, deadly obstructions coming at him in the old days, They were all dangerously avoided by Su Qi, who was gradually mastering the patterns within the old days. At that moment, white rays of light slowly fell into Su Qi's line of sight. He came to the white space of settlement once again. And this time, just like before, there was an old-style slot machine in front of him. He didn't need to lift a finger, as the patterns above were already rapidly rolling. Clang, clang, clang. The speed grew faster and faster, and the next moment, 3 black and white bear symbols appeared, only to hear a thunderous rumbling sound. A large amount of white keys directly burst forth from it. This time, it seems like there are even more keys. Su Qi's eyelids twitched. It was clearly different from before. Previously, each person got roughly 3 keys upon clearance, but this time it was about 60 per person, a 20-fold increase. And Su Qi, who farmed keys through the Shadow Army, also obtained 10 times the amount than before, a total of 120,000 white keys. Not bad. With the previous 6,000, that's nearly 130,000. Su Qi gathered these keys, which surged out like a tide, into his item slot. Such cracked items were still better kept hidden. Next, Su Qi turned his gaze to the shiny, gold slot machine beside him. He walked over and pulled the lever. Clang! A tremendous rumbling echoed from the gigantic machine, with lots of steam shooting out. Rolling mechanical gears burst into starfire. And the next moment, boom! The slot machine flashed with a burst of white light again. Inside were 2 light balls. Su Qi reached out and grabbed them. They were a character card and a prop card, the former of average rank. Character card * Evil Spirit King. Quality: perfect. After use, can summon the Evil Spirit King. This was related to the Ghost Fire motorcycle he had just ridden, only this time the summon was the real deal. Moreover, it wasn't a weakened version, it was an enhanced version. Su Qi looked toward another prop card. This card flickered with golden light. This is. Su Qi picked it up, and it transformed into a card engraved with a small knife. Name: Small Knife. Type: Tool. Effect: in the Dark Zone incident, whenever you need to pay, you can use the small knife to receive a 50% discount. This isn't bad, but it seems like it can only be used once. Su Qi couldn't imagine how outrageous it would be if used on the character card machine. It's a pity, but the gold quality doesn't seem so simple. Su Qi examined the description. Inside, the most important information wasn't the discount strength, but the phrase, whenever you need to pay, although it's limited to the Dark Zone incident. Su Qi narrowed his eyes. But there are too many places this can be applied. It could even be used during upgrades. The value of this thing was extremely high. Having obtained these 2 items, the white light world was also slowly diminishing. And this time, Su Qi didn't appear in the plaza like before. He squinted his eyes slightly. In front of him was a corridor that held no connection to the white, colored with darkness. He had appeared right here. Looking back was a dead end, an unbreakable wall with no gaps. It seemed the only given path was forward. And at this moment, Luo Shenfu's voice slowly resonated in Su Qi's mind. Oh, old Luo is awake. It's not just waking up. It's finally escaping death from a concussion caused by a blunt force. Luo Shenfu's voice was a bit hoarse. It had been completely restricted by the rules at the beginning of the previous massacre. In the old days, many taboos directly shielded my soul, and now I have finally been released. But it's good to see you are safe. Luo Shenfu saw that Su Qi was still around and seemed to have escaped from the gate world, which was a relief. What is this place? Luo Shenfu looked around. Su Qi: good question. I have no idea what happened. But, although I don't know why we appeared here, it seems now the only option is to move forward. Su Qi didn't know much else, he just stepped forward. Although Luo Shenfu had awakened, he also didn't know anything. Xiao Meng was still deep asleep at this moment. Holy Light Corridor couldn't be opened for now. To avoid the old days, he had pushed its functionality to the maximum level. It was currently in cooldown time. However, Su Qi could sense The presence of T0, its holy light mark, was already branded. Although he didn't know where he was now, Su Qi still held absolute control and could send messages, giving various orders. Of course, Su Qi directly summoned Gon, and following the mark, turned them into a spiritual body to guide it. This skill in cultivating others into followers of the Hustler sect, for Gon Wansue and the three of them, came naturally. Su Qi walked forward, and the farther he walked, the corridor became more dilapidated, with various signs of decay arising. And at the same time, Su Qi saw that the corridor ahead had finally changed. The walls around the corridor had no other colors. All were black and white. This place, it's completely different from before. Both walls seemed to be made of the old days. Luo Xinfu's voice was serious. Is that a door? In the distance, where black and white met, a door appeared. Let's go take a look. Su Qi moved forward. Luo Xinfu warned, be careful. Something seems off. Su Qi walked over. Looking at the door before him, every mark on the door was already pure black and white, devoid of any vitality. He reached out and gently opened the door by the handle, facing no resistance nor fog. Upon opening, it was all darkness, endless darkness. There's nothing inside. Not the slightest sign or trace, Su Qi softly said. He could see no questions. Everything was black and white nihility. Old days. Luo Xinfu suddenly spoke in a deep voice. If there used to be a world behind this door like before, it seems it has already been devoured by the old days, erasing all traces. Chapter 627. Come, let's race wildly. In the old days, the only standard that could be judged was the traces. Once traces are erased beyond a certain degree, all sorts of taboos, unprovable, unrememberable phenomena occur, and those who force themselves to know what should not exist will encounter terrifying ominousness. The solemn voice of Luo Xinfu echoed in Su Qi's ears. Is that so? Su Qi looked at the black and white beyond the gate and lightly pointed his finger, and Starfire turned into a beam of starlight. It shot out with a booming roar. Now summoning Starfire, without the need to snap his fingers, allowed Su Qi to employ Starfire in different forms and effects. Although it had no attack power and was only splendid in appearance, who cares as long as it's cool? Starfire entered into the black and white of the old days, its brilliant light only managing to illuminate a small area before slowly turning into pixels, like sinking into the abyss. The space inside is bigger than imagined. The light is not enough to illuminate it. Brother Luo, what do you think? Luo Xinfu seemed somewhat shocked by Su Qi's just action. What did you just throw out? Luo Xinfu was no stranger to Su Qi's use of Starfire. He had previously felt no energy from it and had considered it just a little illuminating tool. But now, unexpectedly, it could light up the old days, although only a little, yet it could persist so long before its traces were deprived and it vanished. Starfire, Su Qi paused, snapped his fingers, is the emblem of the Hustlers sect, to be able to exist for so long in the old days. Luo Xinfu said in a firm voice, though now it had sunk into the gate world and was no longer visible. However, Luo Xinfu had made a judgment. This is an immensely precious object. All right, stop evaluating it. Su Qi looked towards the corridor ahead. Despite the light behind them, the corridor beyond the door was completely dark, and all light stopped abruptly at the door. Let's focus on the task at hand now. Luo Xinfu frowned. Although I don't know what lies ahead, there's certainly no place of tranquility. Daozi, be careful. I know. Su Qi's gaze focused on the corridor, as dark as can be, like a cliff edge or a chasm, devoid of any bit of information. But Su Qi knew he couldn't have appeared in this place for no reason. Regardless of the factor, he needed to probe for clarity. Boom! He flicked his fingers gently, casting out a large group of Starfire. The Starfire brightened the path ahead. In the old days, the light of Starfire was limited, shining on the path of its forward flight. But it still illuminated a large number of the black and white gates, and there was no end in sight. Once more, the starfire turned into tiny pixels until it could no longer be seen. It's very long. No end in sight. Luo Xinfu concentrated all his spiritual power to gather information. But there seemed to be traces on the ground. Can you continue to use that starfire, Daozi? Of course. Su Qi extended his hand and produced a sphere of light 10 times the size of the previous one, ready to cast it out. Luo Xinfu's eyes widened. Wait. Conserve that precious thing a bit. Humph. Su Qi glanced at the ball of starfire. A thing that cost nothing, unlimited, eternally existent, and still to conserve it would be a bit disrespectful. However, Su Qi conceded. Fine, I'll conserve it a bit. The starfire in his hand returned to its normal size. Although starfire was an unlimited resource for him, its trait of enduring in the old days was something Su Qi had already seen the value of. Being able to last long in the old days made it immensely precious to others. Of course, if they knew its true traits, it would drive people even crazier. At this moment, Su Qi once again tossed out the starfire. Unaffected by gravity, as long as he gave it initial speed, it would continue moving forward indefinitely until blocked. Of course, Su Qi also discovered the starfire skill was not constant. It would upgrade as his own strength evolved. Just like at the beginning, he could only snap his fingers, and the quantity was limited. But as his ascension progressed, each snap produced more and more starfire. And now, he didn't need the finger-snapping action anymore. Thus, Su Qi didn't rule out the possibility of remotely controlling starfire in the future, nor did he rule out discovering other uses for it. Exclamation point. This was the information displayed on the question mark popping up from the ring. It seemed that Luo Xinfu had found something, directly prompting an exclamation in his mind. However, the effect of this concrete made it seem a bit abstract to Su Qi. It seems you've got an idea. Su Qi had noticed too, but he did not dig deeper. He could tell that Luo Xinfu was bursting with eagerness to help and make himself useful. Although it seemed to Su Qi that there would be a big scene later, enough to keep him busy. But for now, it didn't matter. Luo Xinfu exhaled slowly. I've discovered that there are traces on the ground. Traces are the basis of all existence. In the old days, as long as there are traces, one can find direction. This is also why the ancient gate can be entered. Once there are no traces, like with these black and white gates around, we will get completely lost in total darkness. Luo Xinfu shared all this information with Su Qi. Actually, Daozi, this information is still premature for you. After all, the old days are taboo. The more you know, the more ominous it is. It's just that in this place, we have no choice but to touch upon these things. Chapter 6:28. Su Qi's eyebrows arched. Mr. Luo, indeed still honest and sincere. But Luo Xinfu furrowed his brows. What do these traces mean? Since the light had flashed only momentarily, he had probed with all his might and only glimpsed a rough outline. Su Qi, once again, raised a finger, with starfire appearing at its tip. Clearly, the marks on the ground seemed to be footprints. He analyzed minutely, speaking softly. Although I don't know why they exist here, uneroded by the old days, it seems possible to move forward by following these traced footprints. Luo Xinfu frowned deeply, his voice grave. Footsteps? Moving forward along them. He did not deny Su Qi's idea and looked around the corridor. In this airtight corridor, there were no other exits, only the surrounding black and white doors. It seemed there was only one path to take. But Luo Xinfu looked solemnly forward. It's too dangerous. In the boundless darkness ahead, you must step precisely into the traced footprints with every step. A single misstep, any part falling outside, might result in encounters with dreadful ominous forces. Thus, Daozi must carefully use the starfire at critical locations. Although Luo Xinfu advised against moving forward, he had a vague feeling about something. The traces above were vast, seemingly left here on purpose, and though the many energies were mottled and complex, they felt somewhat familiar. This seemed to be a guide extraordinary in this place. Understood. Su Qi gave an okay gesture. He ignited the starfire directly, this time without any acceleration, and started walking forward. He stepped onto the first footprint. As expected, the massive old days did not surge forward with the black and white colors. Continue. I will help you determine the positions. Luo Shenfu spoke intently. Step by step, each cluster of starfire illuminated a small area, and he would determine the position of the traces, pinpointing it precisely before stepping carefully. This required extreme caution, treating each spot with the utmost care. But Su Qi glanced curiously at his ring. Brother Luo, I think it's not that complicated. You go have a cup of tea and rest a bit. I'll handle the rest. Luo Shenfu? ? Su Qi started walking. At the same time, each step seemed to land precisely on the traced footprints, and the surrounding starfire completely lit up everything around him. Luo Shenfu watched this scene, shocked. No, I'd been busy analyzing and planning all this time, and you just went straight on. Seeming to notice Luo Shenfu's sheer surprise, Su Qi also smiled and patched things up. Immortal path enlightens my true vision. Su Qi's pupils flickered slightly, speaking softly. Everything follows a form. Since the immortal path steel had already merged with him, a dimension's power was at his behest, and naturally, he held the ultimate interpretation. Luo Shenfu's eyebrows lifted, his doubts fading significantly. If it's by the immortal path, then it's fine. But is the power of the immortal path so easy to control? He muttered. That saint only began contemplating it after becoming a god. Because I'm a sports student? Whether talent, depth, you wouldn't understand. Su Qi calmly walked forward, each step precisely on each footprint. Luo Shenfu? Perhaps at the moment of first meeting he might have really believed it. At this point, Su Qi continued forward, neither fast nor slow, walking for about a minute, making Luo Shenfu sweat profusely, although it was uneventful. Until 10 minutes later, Luo Shenfu still wasn't used to it, and he was sweating even more, because Su Qi sped up. He almost started running. Luo Shenfu watched, terrified, unable to help but cry out, "Can you slow down a bit? Watching this makes me anxious." This feeling was like riding a bus on an extremely narrow mountain road, with half the tires already off the cliff. But the speed was still hitting 100 miles per hour. A slight mishap would mean total destruction. Who the hell can handle this? Your mental toughness still needs work, solid Luo, Su Qi said meaningfully. Work on it, my ass. Luo Shenfu was a cultivation great success. A cultured man who had guarded the steel for countless years. At this moment, he was somewhat anxious. However, Su Qi didn't respond. Instead, he looked ahead and muttered to himself, "This corridor is even longer than I imagined." 10 minutes had passed. Along the way, there were densely packed yet dilapidated doors in black and white, but he had still not reached the end of the corridor. He could only continue forward by following the footprints. To tell the truth, another reason Luo Shenfu felt his heart tighten was the pressure. If it were someone else, each step forward would require immense courage, and the pressure and despair that hit him when he couldn't see the end almost swallowed him whole. Because he could move forward by following the footprints without straying, but retreating was very difficult. The footprints were very narrow and virtually together. Wanting to give up midway, the higher the cost of giving up the farther he went. Therefore, the farther forward, the greater the despair. And according to the method he had proposed earlier, each step required full concentration and a lot of energy and time to reach this distance. It would probably take a day and a night, leaving his mind weary. Of course, all of this did not apply to Su Qi, who was striding as if flying, looking around as he went. Luo Shenfu? Daozi was just too relaxed. They continued forward. Su Qi quickened his pace again, and Luo Shenfu simply stopped paying attention to this and focused on the doors around him. After all, this corridor was truly long, and walking slowly, who knew how much time it would take to complete? And Luo Shenfu, looking around, his pupils subtly contracted. To tell the truth, There are too many doors of worlds that have been erased from existence, Luo Shenfu said gravely. Although these doors are forgotten as soon as they are seen, with no marks or patterns remembered, my current feeling is, there's something very special here. It seems to involve the entire dark zone. Su Qi, coincidentally, I think so too. Luo Shenfu looked around and muttered, Daozi, how did you actually get here? Su Qi, even more coincidentally, I'd like to know that too. Luo Shenfu, in any case, Su Qi calmly said, Don't rush. The reversal is coming. Luo Shenfu's spirit sharpened. Did you find an exit?
No.
Su Qi, the footprints are on the ceiling now. Oh. Luo Shenfu widened his eyes. A physical reversal. And Su Qi directly leapt, stepping onto the ceiling and hanging upside down. Luo Shenfu felt a slight sinking in his heart. Walking upside down wasn't really an issue for any sequencer who could use spiritual energy. However, this undoubtedly increased the difficulty, making it even more challenging, and spiritual energy would be consumed even more, with slight miscalculations leading to a series of collapses. However, why have you sped up again? Don't rush, Su Qi said calmly. Is it me who's rushing, or is it you? To tell the truth, the road ahead was not easy to navigate, and the footprints were all over the place. Some were up, some were down, and some even required fixed-point jumping, palm sticking, and climbing. However, Su Qi thought it wasn't a big problem. The more it was like this, the more it indicated, we are almost there. Su Qi looked ahead. There was already a slight change in the corridor. He directly looked up. The next moment, countless starfires burst forth violently. A mass of light illuminated the path ahead. They had finally seen the end. Outside the end of the corridor seemed to be an infinitely vast star river, and upon closer inspection, all these twinkling star rivers were densely packed with doors. Most importantly, these doors were not black and white. They all emitted twinkling white light, so at first glance, they all looked like star rivers. Chapter 629. World Tree Root. 100 entities. The vast star river drifted, converged, and slowly spun in the midst. There are doors everywhere, billions of them. Luo Shenfu watched the scene, his mind turbulent. And these doors are completely different from those in the corridor we passed through earlier. Although they are located in the old days, they exist in their own right. The darkness around here was not the universal chaos, but all the old days. The Great Star River, formed by countless flashing doors, was the only existing thing in this expanse of the old days. Could this place be the very core of the Dark Zone? Luo Shenfu seemed to think of this, shock overwhelming his emotions. Although everything in sight was just a distant, unapproachable star river, Su Qi directly pulled out an astronomical telescope. Don't say. It really is. Luo Shenfu watched as Su Qi set up the device. How come Daozi has all sorts of strange gadgets? Meanwhile, Su Qi's gaze had already reached into the star river. From afar, it appeared as countless doors connected by numerous points of white light. Yet, with the astronomical telescope, it seemed there appeared to be corridors. Vague figures could be seen moving within. It seems we have indeed come to an extraordinary place. At that moment, Su Qi suddenly paused, because in the center of the vast star river, Su Qi saw a corridor with someone else setting up an astronomical telescope. Also looking at him. Is that myself? Intriguing. Su Qi muttered to himself. It's only because I am in the midst of these mountains. The corridor he was walking on was that very central corridor within the Star River. At that moment, this corridor also exhibited anomalies. The footprints he had walked upon were all flickering, though dimmer than before, and all the densely packed doors along the corridor suddenly burst open. Did you notice it? What? Su Qi. The entire corridor is tilting, and it looks like we are about to be thrown out. He turned around. A vortex force from the Star River seemed to drive everything. The entire Star River was visibly spinning, faster and faster towards the center. Su Qi felt a tremendous pull in this corridor instantaneously. Unable to resist, he was flung out. Su Qi did think of using spiritual energy to activate sequence ability or to enter the holy light corridor for temporary evasion. But as soon as he tried, the surrounding old days would aggressively close in, relentlessly attempting to annihilate him. This intense, deadly aura made Su Qi abandon this idea. The old days also had strengths and weaknesses, like the black rain he had encountered previously. If one possessed sufficient spiritual energy, bathing in it wouldn't pose a problem if one exited before depleting their energy. The black rain expanding into an all-consuming black tide could easily destroy any low-level sequencer. Now, he was at the core of the spinning star river, with frighteningly dense old days around. Even though Su Qi now possessed millions in spiritual energy level, he had felt it earlier. Any action would immediately encounter a lethal backlash. Meaning, to linger here within the old days for even a moment would consume millions, or more, of spiritual energy. However, at this very moment, Su Qi was not being devoured by the old days. Because Luo Xinfu noticed and stared intently at Su Qi. "Daozi, why are you glowing?" Su Qi looked at himself. Indeed, a thin layer of luminescent film enveloped him. "Right, why is that?" Luo Xinfu briefly stunned. Then he quickly remembered those footprints. Was it the gleaming light from those footprints? Throughout the journey, all footprints he walked over kept accumulating light points. Eventually, these light points gathered around his body, forming this luminescent film, protecting Su Qi from the devouring old days. Luo Xinfu slightly nodded in understanding. He was just about to explain to Daozi. But Su Qi raised his index finger. I've got it." Luo Xinfu paused. Indeed, Daozi's judgments had always been extremely precise. Su Qi paused. "It is the brilliance of my personality shining." Luo Xinfu, withdrawing his compliment, his judgment was questionable after all. At this moment, Su Qi, along with the rotating force of the Star River, was being sucked into the center of the vortex. Although the speed was extremely fast with this luminescent layer, Su Qi remained unaffected. He was swiftly thrown into the heart of the Star River's cluster of doors, that singularity, and in an instant, Su Qi was sucked into that singularity. A sense of weightlessness and multidimensional spatial blur, bizarre dimensional landscapes all appeared one after another. Though the information was immense, it appeared extremely fast, like all the scenes in the world combined, played in less than a second. The next moment, Su Qi felt he had entered a certain space. The deadly aura of the old days was gone, and he finally felt the sensation of falling. However, the fall was swift. After all, he seemed to have been thrown in, just as he prepared to open his eyes, using spiritual energy to avoid a collision. "Don't worry." At that time, someone hummed lightly and reached out. A force directly stirred towards him. The next moment, Su Qi distinctly felt his speed slow. Su Qi opened his eyes. Around him, massive chains as large as mountains crisscrossed densely across the space. Below was a ground formed by innumerable gigantic interlocking chains, densely packed without any gaps. Simultaneously, Su Qi also saw the person who had just intervened, a young man with white hair. Chapter 630. The most important thing was, there were 3 other individuals around, each of them looking at themselves, although the expressions seemed somewhat restrained. But the question marks above their heads displayed their different emotions. There was surprise, curiosity, and disappointment. Su Qi took the opportunity to land on the ground. For others also leaped down. To tell the truth, in this eerie place, full of iron chains, suddenly seeing for strangers. Su Qi usually treated them as enemies, but the current situation seemed different. Although they initially had various emotional fluctuations when they saw him, at this moment, they were extremely enthusiastic. There could be no fake. The young man, although youthful in appearance, was quite composed. "I didn't expect someone to step into this place again. Welcome to your arrival." The young man with blue hair next to him also reached out his hand. I am Deep Blue. Su Qi extended his hand. I am Ad Point. Luo Shenfu. ? My Daozi. Stop playing with these broken clichés. And the four were slightly startled, seemingly not quite understanding. What do you mean? Bad. Su Qi's eyelid twitched. Not understanding the joke. Immediately loses half the fun. The four coughed. Sorry. We haven't had contact with the outside world for a long time, so we might not understand what you're saying. They even apologized. Really, I could cry. No big deal. Su Qi smiled lightly. My name is Su Buxian. Nice to meet everyone. Deep Blue nodded slightly, smiling. All right, Su Buxian. First off, welcome. I know you must have many questions about this place, and being able to come here shows you possess a 1-in-a-million capability. However, before explaining everything, I want to verify something with you. He stretched out his hand, and a dead leaf in his palm twinkled slightly. Do you have this? The other three also slowly revealed. A pendant, arm tattoo, necklace, all with a world tree withered leaf. So it turns out, you are all heavenly destiny people. Su Qi also took out a leaf, although it was already very dim. One of our own. Heavenly destiny people. But the young man paused slightly. No, we are not. But Xiao Wu is heavenly destiny people. Wait. Su Qi extended his hand. You aren't heavenly destiny people? First of all, you have a preconception, but don't worry, we are not enemies. After all, those who possess the world tree leaf are recognized as purely good people. Next to him, a woman with short hair and an ancient leather dress spoke sincerely. We are all good people. Su Qi. Okay, I believe. Luo Shenfu. He expressed skepticism not about the four people because the world tree leaf indeed had such an effect. What he doubted was his own Daozi. How had he not seen pure goodness in Su Buxian? The last one was a man in black clothes carrying a giant sword, who nodded at Su Qi, as if to greet him. Come with us, we can talk while we walk. Brother Luo, what do you think? Luo Shenfu. I don't know, but although they look youthful and have only 7th rank strength, each person's ancient attire and the ancient sequence ability used just now are all immensely extraordinary. It feels like they are from my era. Su Qi stroked his chin. So they are all old Logan? ? Luo Shenfu. Damn it. Deep Blue walked with Su Qi. First, you must have come to this place through that corridor, right? Su Qi nodded. He patted Su Qi's shoulder. Us too. Only those who possess the world tree leaf and meet certain requirements are eligible to enter that corridor. And those who can walk out from that corridor are even rarer. Deep Blue looked around, saying in a grave tone. And this place, it has already been eroded by the old days, the world tree root. World tree. Su Qi narrowed his eyes, seemingly not much surprised. Perhaps it was because the world tree withered leaf had already moved and conveyed some information earlier. Or perhaps it was because of his prior experience in the shadow of the old days, where he had seen gigantic chains, countless bodies, and massive black shadows. You're understandably confused right now because we're not from the same era, the short-haired woman said softly. In your era, this place has probably already changed appearance. Pretty much, Su Qi replied. This place is now known as the Dark Zone. Dark Zone, the young man said gravely. Could it be that the abyss has completely taken over here? Not exactly. Su Qi paused. However, I need to hear more from you before I can judge. Deep Blue nodded. No rush, after we meet the others. I will continue to explain the truth about this place, as well as our mission. That works. Su Qi was in no hurry. He had already gleaned quite a bit of information from the questions of the four. These people had been here for a long time and indeed were chosen in the present world to carry an important mission. Here, the lands made of chains were vast and boundless. However, they soon reached a place with a huge void, where layer upon layer of iron chain staircases had been constructed. And inside was actually a stronghold. Let's go. Deep Blue said softly. With you included, there are exactly 100 people who have come here. Su Chi narrowed his eyes. Quite a few people. Many, the man in black said calmly. History has rolled on, and so far, only 100 people have managed to pass through that corridor and reach here. This number is already very few. Su Chi looked towards the stronghold, where various buildings had been constructed, vintage, modern fantasy. Indeed, many people were living here, playing cards, drinking tea, chatting, and some even napping on lounge chairs. Are you a bit surprised to see this scene? The short-haired woman asked gently. Indeed, but unexpectedly, you all seem quite comfortable. The man in black shook his head. This isn't comfort. It's just that after countless years, these recreational activities are the only way we can prevent our spirits from collapsing under depression and despair. Because we are all trapped here. The man in black looked at Su Chi, his voice hoarse. Including you. Deep Blue frowned slightly. Brother 3. The man in black rasped. I'm only telling it like it is. No one can leave this place. We're trapped here forever, until we are completely worn down. All right. Deep Blue took a deep breath and said softly, come with me. Su Chi's arrival had drawn curious, surprised, but also disappointed looks from many. They seemed surprised that a newcomer had arrived. The disappointment stemmed from the fact that they seemed not to see what they had hoped for in him. This emotion was indeed similar to what Deep Blue and the others felt when they saw him. And soon, they went further down, and here, it was all dark. You'll have a chance to take a look now, Deep Blue said gently as he took out the dead leaf. After all, we don't have much energy left for lighting. The next moment, the dead leaf cast a beam of light, illuminating the darkness ahead. It was an abnormally massive silhouette with no visible end, and all the chains that comprised the continent seemed to just be entwined around it. And Su Chi asked, what is this? Deep Blue spoke solemnly. This is the World Tree Root, and what I'm about to tell you will resolve all your doubts. First, you need to understand one thing. The World Tree is the vast, immensely important core of the present world. It supports the present world, acting as the greatest reliance in the fight against the abyss. And as you also know, the roots of the World Tree have been corroded by the old days, falling into absolute stillness. Although the World Tree has been turned into a world boat as a remedy, without the recovery of the World Tree Root, there will never be peace. And our reason for being here, Deep Blue said softly, is to be chosen to deal with the people here. Chapter 631. The Trapped Person. Su Chi looked at the encompassing darkness and honestly, besides the stronghold, nearly everything around was from the old days. So that's how it is. But why aren't the divine doing such important tasks? He raised the question. It seems you also have a misconception. The short-haired woman gently said, the World Tree Root has many branches, rooted in different boundaries. This place is too fragile. Two powerful strengths would be repelled. Only those with the World Tree Leaf, who are recognized by the World Tree, get chosen to enter that corridor. Su Chi understood. No wonder. The land of extreme evil had restrictions on the high sequence before, the stronger one's strength upon entering the dark zone, the more it is repelled. A lot of information had been explained, and he had seen the vast outline of the World Tree Root. So, Su Chi gently said, what is it that has trapped you here forever, preventing you from leaving? Deep Blue slowly walked toward the iron fence built in the center, with a spiral staircase descending. The staircase constructed of iron chains plunged into the darkness, like a deep abyss resembling a well. Since the energy of the leaf is limited, I won't light it up for you, Deep Blue gently said. Below is what traps us, at the very bottom. There was a hint of fear in his eyes as his hoarse voice gravely said, there lies an entirety that is an incarnation of the old days. Our mission is to take the seed from it, which is the seed of the World Tree, and sow it at the very bottom, at the already decayed base of the World Tree Root. Then there is a chance for recovery. Su Chi stroked his chin, pondering. It sounds not so difficult. Not so difficult, right? The sword-backed, black-clothed youth slightly lifted his gloomy eyes. His hoarse voice calmly said. He looked around at those people. These are all the individuals over the years who have entered the corridor and were chosen to complete this mission here. Some are descendants of the divine race. Others are renowned rising stars, maybe even leaving various great names in the long river of history, but now are all trapped here. Do you really think it's not so difficult? Deep Blue sighed. Old 3, don't get agitated. I am not agitated. Just want the newcomer to understand the cruelty of this place. The man in black finished calmly, then turned and walked away. Watching his retreating figure, Su Chi muttered to himself, "Is it that serious?" The youth also gently said, "Although his words are unpleasant, the fact remains that for countless ages, no matter what tricks or trump cards we had, we've been unable to leave." He looked around at the people. "You have to understand, countless lives, those who are recognized as qualified to complete the mission are 1 in a million. And those who pass through the corridor to reach here are even rarer. Yet even so, everyone here is engulfed in a trapped despair, feeling the slightly heavy atmosphere of the crowd." Su Chi stroked his chin. "Then may I ask, what aspect of this old days monster has left all 100 of you at a complete loss?" The short-haired woman shook her head. "Sorry, we can't say." "Why? Everything experienced below is taboo. Any trace left down there must not be spoken of. Otherwise, we would directly encounter ominous repercussions." "Quite mysterious." Su Chi paused. He was somewhat curious to see just what kind of old days entity it was. Moreover, Su Chi also connected the myriad pieces of information from before, roughly sketching out an outline in his mind. This place is the World Tree Root, hence the sight of numerous iron chains and countless bodies in the shadows before was reasonable, as the World Tree Root itself possesses the capacity to support a vast amount of world spaces. At the same time, although the formation of the Dark Zone was partly for this reason, Su Chi knew there was more to it. Here lies a power struggle between the abyss and the present world, revolving around this area. A massive amount of ancient space fragments had been intentionally gathered here, including plans by the Venerables and maneuvers by the evil god. And such a grand scenario was related to the small town where Su Chi first found himself. After all, Su Chi had already confirmed the information he had previously discovered. "Let's wait to leave here first. It seems the revelations will come soon." Thinking thus, Su Chi asked, "So when do we initiate the next operation?" Upon this question, the 3 fell silent. Deep Blue shook his head. "Sorry, we likely won't initiate the next operation anytime soon." Su Chi raised an eyebrow. "Anytime soon? How soon? Does within an hour count?" 3 of them. You really have no concept of short time. Hard to say, at least not until a turnaround is visible. None of us will attempt the challenge. The short-haired woman sighed softly. Because to enter below and challenge, we need to use the energy in the World Tree Leaf. But this leaf's energy isn't limitless, and the chances left for us aren't numerous either. Anyway, have a look around here first. I'll go find someone to arrange accommodations for you and jot down your various needs. Although we're trapped, at least someone with sequence ability can easily create anything you want. The youth's voice carried a bit of bitterness. It's not too boring at least. 3 of them left to attend to their own tasks. I see from them a letting go. Su Chi. And moreover, they're already making these arrangements. Luo Xinfu at this moment became particularly solemn, gravely saying, "That's not a good sign. It means it's really difficult to leave here." He also used his own keen perception, seeing many so-called prodigies, exceptional endowments, each person carrying divinity, strong trump cards, even many items embracing legend-quality strength. Chapter 632. But yet they were all just cushioning the tabletops, rusting away in the rooms. They seemed to have lost the will to fight. Everyone is utterly listless. Su Chi murmured quietly to himself. Yes, that's why they looked so disappointed when they saw you. At that moment, a soft voice arose. Su Chi turned his head to see a figure leaning against the wall, because they wish to see hope, a turning point, someone who can enter and turn the tides. Su Qi spread his hands. Come on. Isn't that just what you're saying about me? You? The person choked, surprised by Su Qi's confidence. He rubbed his head. Although I say this, and you might not like it, but, friend, the various auras on you are not considered distinguished here. They would even be deemed ordinary. After all, a large part of them possess divinity, bloodlines, strong sequence auras and so on, and the most important is, they sensed the world tree leaf in your hand. The person pointed at Su Qi. It's almost withered, not even comparable to the residual strength that others have used for countless years. Su Qi's fingers caressed the leaf he held. Indeed, theirs were all referred to as world tree leaves. Only his own had been a dead leaf from the start. Luo Xinfu spoke with gravity. I see. It seems the power within the leaves is the core for everyone challenging the monsters, and they want to see someone wielding more power from the world tree leaves, someone who can change the situation. Su Qi put away the leaf. So, I wasn't deemed worthy. By the way, mate, who are you? I'm the one they call the fifth. The youth shrugged. Just like you, a person of heavenly destiny. The one who entered here before you. Su Qi paused for a moment. So how long has it been since then? I can't remember exactly, but at least a century or two. The fifth, though looking quite young himself, surprisingly also had a hint of vicissitude. And Su Qi squinted, seeing some information above the fifth's head. Asterisk, 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 young master. The rest of the information had been concealed beneath a veil of black and white. This was not his first time encountering such a situation, including the time in the storm when he saw asterisk, 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 blood demon. It was the same. Moreover, everyone here, to a greater or lesser extent, exhibited this phenomenon. Their information was incomplete, masked by black and white. It seems everyone has lost a great deal, already halfway into the old days, on the verge of being deprived of existence.
No wonder.
Everyone here seemed to have given up. Don't think too much about it. The fifth patted Su Qi on the shoulder. We too, by age, should be the most recent people here. Come on, let's go have a drink. You have to learn to enjoy life. There's still a long time to spend here. Su Qi. All right, let's go. It would probably take some time for Deep Blue on his end, and he was in no rush since he had arrived. He might as well get to know the place well. To his view, everyone here was a treasure, wealth. Of course, the prerequisite would be to successfully leave this place. Outside, everyone was probably progressing step by step through the various gate worlds, intending to reach the center of the dark zone in not too much time. Before the situation fully burst forth, Su Qi naturally wanted to leave here beforehand. Click! The tavern door was slowly pushed open. This place indeed had seen countless years. Almost anything could be seen, featuring various styles of buildings from different epochs and civilizations. These were all built by, among us, those with the sequence ability to create. The fifth walked ahead, leading the way. Although there are only 100 of us, to tell the truth, except for being trapped here, unable to leave, and possibly dying in this place, everything else is not too bad. Anyway, whatever you need, you can ask for it when the time comes. Luo Xinfu frowned. It was not good to say, but now many people here had lost their will to fight. No one said it outright, but in their words, in their actions, there was a kind of silent emotion. For someone who came from the immortal path dimension like him, it was clear that the spirit of the people here had dissipated. If he used his own terms, it was a demon of the heart. Of course, the paths of sequence they walked were different and did not harbor such inner demons. But it was different for his own Daozi, possessing the immortal way sequence. There must certainly be the hurdle of inner demons, and the words before him were already somewhat nonsensical, shaking the spirit. However, it might not necessarily be the case. Luo Xinfu thought that Su Qi was not an ordinary Daozi. He surely would. Really? Su Qi was a bit surprised and eager. Then I want a big villa built on the sea, with a pool for yachting and fishing, and preferably a large estate where cars can speed over 300 miles. Luo Xinfu, Old Fifth. At that moment, both fell into silence. Old Fifth helplessly asked for a cup of wine. We asked for your needs, not for a fanciful wish. The bar, although lacking a server or the like, seemed to have self-brewed drinks, and many people just had to select from the menu for their drink to be automatically served. After all, everyone was just trying to make this place as similar to life as possible, or familiar like their previous world, to keep from falling into despair. Su Chi also ordered a cup. He tasted it lightly. To be honest, the people here still had a bit of spirit, still holding on to some hope. Otherwise, they wouldn't look forward so much to the arrival of newcomers, making every tiny detail of life so meticulously. Moreover, at the iron chain staircase leading to the very bottom, Su Chi also saw many fresh footprints. This meant many people would often come here, everyone with the urge to try for themselves. The current difficulty, rather, is not that being from the old days, but how to get people to act together with me. After all, from what Deep Blue had said, the World Tree leaf in their hands was an important reliance, and it looked as if the power in it was nearly exhausted. If there was to be another action, it would certainly be an all-in, do-or-die battle. Of course, the problem wasn't that big. A new face? I thought I had just hallucinated from too much drink. There were others in the tavern, some inebriated, their blurred eyes lightly glancing towards Su Chi. His pupils were somewhat pale, a bit drunk, but he seemed capable of seeing a lot. 7th rank? The power of the World Tree withered leaf is so weak. You look so ordinary. Luo Xinfu's eyes tightened slightly. This person is from the Divine Eye race, a powerful race that was annihilated during the battle between the Abyss and the present world. You know about this? Su Chi asked curiously. I encountered one of the Divine Eye race when I was guarding the Immortal Path Steel, who claimed to be the last survivor and had amazing talents and perseverance, but unfortunately still failed. Su Chi raised an eyebrow. Hey, isn't it a bit impolite to talk about pity in front of me? Luo Xinfu. Su Chi's response was just a smile as he took the wine glass. You're not the only one to say so. But I have support, I have connections. With these words, laughter erupted in the tavern. Another person patted Su Chi on the shoulder. His eyes wrinkled from laughter. Heh, don't mind, although we laughed a bit loudly. But in such a place, talking about support and connections, young man, I can only say this to you. It has no value. He is the son of God Guangmu. Over there is the young master of an ancient organization that occupies several boundaries. He gently pointed to himself, and I have the bloodline of the demigod race. Every person either has astonishing strength or a powerful background. He gently lifted his glass. But what use are these things in this place? Chapter 633. How long did it take me to walk through the corridor? The atmosphere seemed to have turned somewhat heavy. Soon it was dispersed by Old Five as some drank, while others chatted. To be honest, how are things going for you now? Both the forces of the Abyss and the present world seem to have stepped into this place. Divine Eye and Su Chi gently clinked glasses and asked softly, although it seems it has not fully burst yet, the Abyss appears to be at an advantage. Su Chi took a small sip of the strong liquor. How do you know this? Logically speaking, the last person trapped here was someone from at least 100 years ago, yet they still knew about the outside world. Of course, we can't know the information from the outside, but Divine Eye put his arm around Su Chi's shoulder. Look up. Su Chi looked up. This place was made of chains, and the sky dome was always illuminated by light, the source of which was the light ball in the space above. Is that the singularity I passed through when I came in? Su Chi pondered. Right? Divine Eye nodded. That is the miniature of the outside Star River, and likewise, if you look closely, you'll find black and white spreading around the singularity. And this is the manifestation of the power of both the Abyss and the present world, Gate World, representing how much of the ancient forces of both sides have awakened. He looked up. Whoever has more holds the advantage, and at the moment it bursts, the Great War will unfold completely, with countless fresh and ancient powers all clashing together. A new chapter is turned, and the true grand stage fully draws back its curtain. After saying this, Divine I slowly had a gleam of eagerness in his eyes, a staggering aura rippling right from his body, even causing the liquid in people's glasses to ripple. The surrounding windows creaked. There was clearly no wind, yet you could see his sleeves fluttering. Su Chi watched this scene, the liquid in his glass oscillating, and he raised his eyebrows. Wait a minute. What is this? Dominance. Other people seemed accustomed to it and were not affected. Instead, seeing Su Chi's confusion, they were somewhat stunned. You don't know? Su Chi? ? Shouldn't this be common knowledge? Everyone looked at each other. Then the next moment, each one of them was shaken, and a strong aura burst out violently. It clearly had no force, yet it could stir up waves of influence. This is spiritual force. Old Five said. It is an aura that only those who are born strong can stimulate. Everyone here, as I said before, is naturally strong and can easily master it. I see. Su Chi touched his chin. Isn't this just dominance? People looked at Su Chi's puzzlement, somewhat confused themselves. You really don't know. This is something that anyone who steps into Sequence 6 will know at the moment of ascension. Is that so? Su Chi spread his hands. Then that makes sense, because I am only at the 7th rank right now. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's faces froze a bit, looking at Su Chi with some shock. You're only at 7th rank. Su Chi? ? I also didn't see any sign hanging in the previous corridor, saying, no handsome guys and 7th rank allowed. Old Five took a deep breath. That's because, as mentioned before, this place has great restrictions on extraordinary strength, so those who are Sequence 5 and above, including Sequence 5, find it difficult to enter. So everyone who enters here is almost all at Sequence 6, the highest level of combat strength below the extraordinary. After all, to confront the old days, the World Tree Leaf would select people capable of fighting those ancient beings from the old days. Su Chi raised his thumb slightly. Means it has good foresight to have chosen me to come in, and it sounds like the sequence level isn't the only criterion for judgment. Old Five looked at Su Chi with a feeling of already having had a good run, and he chuckled helplessly in agreement. That's right, although 99% of the people here are Sequence 6, it's reasonable to have exceptions now and then. But this was quite the exception. No wonder they were surprised. After all, the gap between sequences grows larger the higher you go, and there's a huge gulf between Sequence 6 and 7th rank. Logically and morally, a 7th rank would not be chosen to enter. But this also implies that you must have a very strong potential, after all, to be recognized and also to have passed through that dangerous and terrifying despair corridor. Divine, I also gently patted Su Chi on the shoulder. That corridor is indeed a bit longer than I had imagined. Su Chi paused. Is it very difficult to get through? Of course. Divine, I said dispassionately. After all, that is the old death corridor. In reality, more than just the 100 people present were chosen, but 99% of them could not pass through that corridor to reach here. Old Five beside him chuckled lightly. Those 4 guys from Deep Blue you saw earlier, the few of us are actually from the same boundary, kind of like fellow countrymen. Previously we even had a competition on this, ranking seniority based on the time it took to pass through the corridor. I'm ranked 5th, so I'm called Old Five. Is that so? I feel sympathy for the one called Old 6. Su Chi lifted his glass. Divine, I laughed gently. Although he is Old 5, he used one of the shorter times. Among the people here, he's also ranked towards the front. Of course, we aren't far behind either. How long did it take each of you? Su Chi was genuinely curious. The person next to him lit a cigarette and waved his hand. I'm not so good. It took me 31 days because I was extremely careful and edged my way over. Divine, I and Old Five are both around 15 days. Chapter 634. Su Chi's expression was slightly odd. Seeing the change in Su Chi's mood, Lao Wu shook his head, modestly saying, I just got lucky. Brother Shenlong and the others are all heavenly prides from the ancient era. Not only are they incredibly strong, being the top existences here, but they also took very little time. You might be surprised once I tell you. He paused. They only took about 7 days and the shortest, just 3 days. Su Qi. How should I put it? Indeed, it was a bit surprising. Surprised that it would take so long to walk down a corridor? Were they having hot pot in there? Brother Su, how long did you take? Lao Wu poured himself another cup of wine, and to tell the truth, drinking really does make for a better atmosphere, as now everyone was calling him Brother Buxian. But that was normal. After all, these were people who had spent countless years together, companions who were as close as kin if not by blood. How should I say it? Su Qi held up 4 fingers. Not bad. Lao Wu filled Su Qi's cup with wine. Taking only 40 days for the 7th rank is quite impressive. Su Qi smiled lightly. What if I meant? For days? 4 hours? 40 minutes? Lao Wu nearly choked, wiping the wine from the corner of his mouth with his hand. I could even understand 4 days, but those other figures, they're a bit fantastical. What if? Su Qi said with a light smile. Before the others could say anything, someone outside the tavern stepped in with the sound of footsteps. Su Buxian, everything is just about ready. You should come and customize your residence first. The speaker was a short-haired woman. Lao Wu downed his cup in one gulp. 4th sister, I'm coming too. The group walked outside. But inside Su Qi's mind, Luo Xinfu was going haywire. Daozi, you've turned it on, haven't you? You must have. I knew it. Something was off. While everyone else counts their time in days, you only took 40 minutes. Su Qi responded calmly. No choice. With time pressing and tasks waiting, speeding up was essential. Luo Xinfu didn't know how to react, realizing only then that there was still something hidden about Su Qi. Was it some kind of powerful relic? Or something else? He couldn't be sure. But it didn't matter. The stronger Daozi became, the happier he naturally felt. As long as he could protect Daozi and deal with those troublesome enemies he had spoken of before, that would be enough. Even though they were trapped in this place, Luo Xinfu actually felt it wasn't too bad, since one could still cultivate here, merging the immortal path into their being and harnessing its power. There was the possibility of leaving. Of course, even now, he still had no idea what kind of enemies they would face in the future. Anyway, you're not normal. That starfire is extremely valuable. You must preserve it well. Luo Xinfu made a firm judgment. After all, while others took such a long time, Su Qi was swift and spirited, just like someone preparing to grab a fridge without ever stopping. Alrighty, I'll try my best to use it well and not waste it. Su Qi agreed with a light chuckle. In fact, Su Qi knew why it took these people so long. Apart from not stepping confidently, the most crucial reason was they lacked a light source. To move forward, everyone could only rely on the world tree leaves in their hands to emit light, coupled with the lethal dangers and difficulties of the old days. Hence, everyone was particularly cautious. Almost as Luo Xinfu had said before, they treated every step with utmost caution, using the light of the world tree sparingly and carefully. They quickly arrived at another open space within the stronghold. There was a bearded dwarf waiting for them, and Brother Shenlan and the 2 others were also there. Su Buxian, this is the creation master of the sequence I mentioned to you before. Whatever kinds of things you want to customize for your residence, you can discuss with him. Little brother, my name is Otto, said the dwarf, who despite his full beard, was about the same age as everyone else, a gift of his race. What kind of living quarters do you want? I will prepare the standard fixtures inside, or if you want to customize anything new, just let me know. Otto boasted with a confident smile. I can create anything. Su Qi's eyes lit up. Well then, I won't be shy to make a request. He counted on his fingers. I want a separate sea surface. Deep Blue silently hesitated for a moment, then hurriedly coughed to interrupt. Normal requirements. Then prepare a research and crafting room for me. Su Qi pointed to the open space and pulled out a piece of paper. I don't need anything else. Just these things will be enough. Otto looked at the items on the paper and was taken aback. Wait, you don't need a bed? At my age, how could I possibly sleep? Su Qi waved his hand grandly. Without doing something, I would be restless. Everyone watched silently as Otto, looking utterly confused, began discussing the construction details with Su Chi. His personality seems to be somewhat different from ours. It's actually a good thing, at least he's optimistic and cheerful, and he seems to have a proactive enthusiasm for research. The youth watched the scene. It's just that I wonder how long this enthusiasm can last. They had once been strict with themselves, constantly pushing themselves to do everything well, thinking that they could challenge the existence from the old days. But later, they gave up because they simply couldn't compete, and after numerous instances of despair, that kind of enthusiasm became hard to sustain. Perhaps in a month, a year, 10 years, or even 100 years, he would become just like everyone else, hopeless. By the way, he is 7th rank, Number 5 said softly at that moment. Deep Blue and the others were slightly startled and showed surprised expressions. He doesn't even know what spiritual force is. Deep Blue, surprised, bowed his head in thought, feeling that something was not quite right. It's rather strange, from what we can tell about all of us. We were chosen by the World Tree Leaf as the top contenders, and its guidance has never been wrong. If Brother Su Bushin is 7th rank, then it means he must have some other redeeming qualities. Deep Blue pondered. He wanted to see what the others thought when he hesitated, because he saw the others' indifference, as if they didn't care about this. He sighed inwardly. In fact, Deep Blue had never said it, but even after so many years he had never given up. Of course, he didn't blame everyone else, for they had just lost faith. It was just that their faith was buried deep within. Let's go. They're probably going to discuss for a while longer. We should go rest too. The group left. Only Otto and Su Chi remained. The things you're asking for are a bit demanding, but it's not a big problem, Otto said, looking at the list. I can make them all for you. It will just take some time. Awesome. Thanks, Brother Ao. No problem. Otto agreed very cheerfully and immediately began using his abilities. He had a forging space and a large number of molds formed, at the same time creating the items on the list and crafting the room. His spiritual energy could directly create many simple things, but for more complex items, he needed to use his sequence ability space, which contained various colorful liquids. They could condense into a variety of complex things. That's a fearsome ability, Luo Shinfu exclaimed as he watched the scene. The dwarf race is also part of the demigod race. They have a terrifying talent in construction and repair, and many legendary weapons and equipment come from them. Yes, as soon as I saw him, I knew he was the big boss for turning the screws. Su Chi. The Hustlers sect needs talents like him. Luo Shenfu. You keep mentioning your Hustlers sect, yet I haven't seen where your sect is, but now that he knew Su Chi's personality, it was likely that the Hustlers sect was just a small, obscure sect. After all, for a 7th rank to become a sect hierarch, that's just too embarrassing to mention. But what exactly do you want these things for? Su Chi snapped his fingers. Of course, to do some research and create some interesting stuff. Luo Shinfu. What can you make? Oh, a lot of things. Su Chi looked toward the information prompt above his eyes. The startup of Xiaomeng 2.0 is underway. Remaining time 16 hours. Chapter 635. I don't gamble. Please cut me some slack. Although there were still 16 hours before Xiaomeng would start. And currently, Su Chi did not have any information about what exactly had been upgraded in Xiaomeng 2.0. Su Chi was not in a hurry, considering that it would take some time for the contents of this laboratory and the list to be fully constructed. Su Chi's gaze turned to the bustling Otto. Thanks to the power of the Heart of Divine Weapon, the evolved 2.0 version of Xiaomeng, combined with Otto's construction ability, promised an impressive show. As for the blueprints, there would be no problems with Xiaomeng. There might even be various novel black technologies. It was just that it would be hard on our master builder, Otto. At this moment, Otto was busy and even humming a little tune. Having something to keep oneself busy in this place was a precious rarity, and he enjoyed doing these tasks, even though the spiritual energy and liquids in the forging space required a long time to slowly replenish. However, he suddenly felt a chill, and turning his head to look, He found Su Chi's gaze on him, reminiscent of a factory owner looking at quality livestock, flashing with intentions of luring him into a sweatshop. Felt somewhat ominous. Cough. Otto cleared his throat. Brother Su, you should go rest first. I still have construction to do here. There's a special leisure park area over there. Okay. Then you go on, Brother Otto. Su Chi was not in a rush and turned to leave. His gaze then shifted towards the singularity in the sky dome. Daozi, have you discovered anything? Luo Shenfu observed this scene, puzzled. Even though it's said that the black and white on the singularity are their only sources of information about the outside world. But they are wrong. Su Chi said softly, I possess the 5 elements and 8 trigrams, the anomalies of heaven and earth, and can deduce that people of the outside world have already entered the next ancient gate. Luo Shenfu chuckled lightly, not believing. Daozi, now you've entered my domain. Although the immortal path steel possesses the power to divine heaven's mandate, only those who have achieved an extraordinary realm can calculate it. The karma involved, ominous as it is, will turn into part of the heart demon and gradually expand. Su Chi shrugged. All right then, since you've figured it out, there's nothing I can do. Luo Shenfu was right. Indeed, he had no ability to instantly perform calculations. However, he was also wrong. He, indeed, had a way to know the external information. And the source of the information, Gan Wansue. In Su Chi's spirit house, 3 figures slowly materialized. How are things going right now? We're currently attached to T0, which is now well-versed, capable of freely reciting the hustler's guidelines and has mastered language skills and other abilities. Although it didn't sound like important work, Su Chi nodded in satisfaction. Well done, after all. Anyone who can read through the guidelines of the hustler's sect for 30 seconds without the thought of joining must be divine. Gan Wansue made no comment. After all, he had immunity to the fire poison of his sect hierarch's various remarks. Okay. Next, follow my earlier plan. Take it with you and continue as normal. Understood. While this place was entirely sealed off for many, creating no means of contact with the outside world, it was not a big problem for Su Chi. First, the holy light mark imprinted on T0 allowed a faint connection. Second, the shadow army in the spirit house was unaffected by the separation from the ancient days, and through this faint connection, they successfully taught the ignorant T0, instructing and establishing contact while teaching. Now, Su Chi was taking action here, while T0 represented him, progressing normally in the gate world. Moreover, the most important thing was that T0's strength was already strong, coupled with powerful learning abilities, plus the 3 executive-level minds of Gan Wansue, and his remote deployment. There were completely no issues. It was now an ambassador for the hustler's sect. At this moment, Anan was still in the holy light corridor. Su Chi had not told him that he had just left a trapped world only to enter another eternally sealed world. After all, this news was too cruel for the guy. It would not be too late to tell him when it was time to confront the beings of the old days. He really was too kind. And, as Su Chi stepped forward, he swiftly entered the so-called leisure area where many people were present. There were various entertainment activities. And there were even gambling arenas. None of those present seemed like powerful beings. Rather, they resembled aimless wanderers loudly calling out. Su Chi even saw a few people who had been drinking earlier. Su Buxian, want to join a few rounds? I'm not a gambler. Su Chi revealed a hint of difficulty on his face. Are you playing big? Don't worry. We're not gambling physical goods, just IOUs. The man shrugged. But, he paused, you can cash them once you get out. Calling it gambling was actually just a pastime, and being able to cash out the IOUs only upon leaving represented nothing more than a yearning to leave. Plus, everyone had already despaired about leaving, so the stakes were all very unusual and refined. Su Chi looked at the person who had just lost. The IOU casually handed out was signed for 10 worlds, and just waved off effortlessly. That harsh. After all, everyone has a rich background. Pulling anyone would be a young master of a galaxy-level force. The man gently slapped Su Chi on the shoulder. And the person who accepted the IOU just smiled and said, "Everyone's from big families and businesses. It doesn't matter. Plus, IOUs here have no meaning, as they are all empty promises if we can't leave." Chapter 636. Do you want to play? Su Chi raised an eyebrow. Really? I'm not very good though. Remember to go easy on me, and let's just bet casually without getting too carried away. Okay. No problem. It's just for fun. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. After all, it's been a long time since we felt anything like getting carried away. After all, everyone knew each other too well, even if they gambled. It was just a continuous exchange of IOUs. That's good. With a smile, Su Chi joined in and comfortably took his seat. Then let's get started. Everyone suddenly paused, not sure if it was an illusion. This kid sitting there, they all felt a strange sensation, as if it wasn't a newbie, but a god of gambling. And those who had gambled here for countless ages seemed like mere pups that had been targeted. At this moment, on the other side of the outside world, within numerous gate worlds, many were still battling hard, everyone pressing forward. Meanwhile, the recovery of the Abyss power and the current world power was appearing a bit faster than before. And outside the extremely evil world, within the boundary, a vast amount of strength was also slowly assembling. Countless advanced beings of the Abyss stood on a continent floating in the starry sky, with thousands of worlds behind them. On these worlds, there were all sorts of monsters and numerous Abyss believers. They had already made all sorts of preparations. On the other side, current world power was also gathering, and the person leading all this remained unknown. Vaguely, there seemed to be an equally massive power. This was already an anticipated collision. All hidden forces quietly waiting for that moment which could impact the revival of the entire present world. And on another front, Bai Yilan and a group of over 100 people were advancing into the old days gate world behind Nancy. With the formidable strength of the Meteor Alliance coupled with their numbers, although the gate worlds they encountered were strong and dangerous, they managed to push through one by one. Not only that, Nancy herself was one of the heavenly destiny people and had quickly run into other such people. After a round of communication, they soon proceeded together. Though the more people there are, the more difficult it was to enter into the gate worlds. But now in this place, all powers were converging, and it was unwise to be alone. Moreover, Nancy caressed the world tree withered leaf in her hand, its flickering quivers as if hinting that a turning point was about to arrive. Maybe it's in the next few gate worlds, or perhaps the next one. Let's go. Continue the challenge to the next world. If Su Buxian continues to advance, we will eventually run into him. Bai Yilan and others nodded. Jiang Ji paused. I can almost imagine him saying something like, "We'll meet at the pinnacle." Upon entering here, it was impossible to make contact with the others. They could only proceed together. Plus, with Nancy's identity as a heavenly destiny person becoming their companion, Bai Yilan and the Meteor Alliance felt by now, the confrontation between the Abyss and the current world left no place for spectators, and in addition, the pollution value from the Abyss was something they aimed to eliminate. Naturally, they would want to take the stage. Bai Yilan glanced at the panel in their view. Current pollution value, 683. Warning. Once the pollution value reaches 1000, a significant event will be triggered, and thereafter, it will never decrease below 1000. During this major world event, the extremely evil event, the pollution value will continue to fluctuate after breaking 1000. Main quest triggered. Keep the pollution value under 10,000 at the event's end. All player actions reducing pollution value will be recorded by the system, and rewards will be given according to player performance in the major event. Bai Yilan let out a soft sigh. It wasn't just all the players, but including all powers of the heavenly destiny people from the current world, who were trying their best to push forward. But sadly, the pollution value had been fluctuating but maintained a generally rising trend, climbing from over 400 to nearly 700. Actually, it had been higher before. And then, just half a day ago, the pollution value suddenly underwent a significant change, dropping by more than 50 points. Understand that this sudden drop of 50 points was an astonishing event, because the previous fluctuations were about 1 point over several hours, and the most the value would waver was no more than 3 points. This drop of 50 points truly shocked everyone, leaving them clueless about what had happened, but it also gave them a sigh of relief. At least, there was a distance from reaching 1,000 points that allowed them to catch their breath. They were also entering one gate world after another, striving to enhance their strength as much as possible. Let's go. Nancy led everyone forward through the corridor, quickly coming upon a gigantic door. This door requires 30 white keys per person. The deeper they went, the more keys were needed, and of course, the rewards after passing through were more significant. Their keys could be used for random draws at the Black and White Bear store, which offered character cards and tools, all of which were parts that increased their strength. I didn't expect it to take so many, and for this door to be so massive, with an extraordinary aura. Bai Yilan said with a focused tone, I judge that this world is very likely to have a large number of others entering along with us, surely different from those we encountered previously. Anyway, be cautious. Let's take one step at a time upon entering. They didn't hesitate for long, quickly inserting a large number of keys, and the door opened in response, as each stepped into the mist. Meanwhile, they, however, failed to notice that at this very moment, many others in different gate worlds were stepping through the same patterned colossal door, although through different corridors. This included Old Huang. Priest, you've been staring at this door for so long. Are we going in or not? Achi couldn't help but ask beside him. Old Huang frowned. Don't rush. Let me repeat. Don't rush. Give me more time to look. It wasn't particularly concerned about the resources here, but was leading the future stars of the hustlers to grow. But previously, when it used the Black and White Bear store, it had pulled up a strange message. Within the ancient gate lay a corridor leading to the ultimate, and anyone who could leave through there could easily obtain 100,000 white keys. This number was undoubtedly staggering, considering the 5 or 6 gate worlds they had experienced, where numerous people fought desperately and only managed to average around 100 or 200 keys each. As for this Old Huang was not at all eager to confront it, but held a principle of dread and avoidance. It had weathered many great storms. The so-called ultimate corridor would undoubtedly carry unimaginable danger and difficulty, the kind where whoever went would die. Naturally, it wanted to be extremely careful, avoiding if possible. There was no need to have everyone fight tooth and nail. All right, after confirming everything, this door seems different from the previous ones, but it shouldn't be. Old Huang nodded in satisfaction. Let's go. At the same time, in the world beyond this door, more abyss powers and heavenly destiny people were also stepping through. And in the corridor, a screen appeared next to each great door. The Black and White Bear was displayed on the screen, wearing a wicked smile while also looking gleefully over everything. Giggled. Are they all nearing the ultimate core area? That world built on the roots of decay seems about to open its pathway. The group from the abyss seems to have mastered everything, and the gods of the abyss are even growing restless. Could see many things. A plethora of abyss gate worlds being rapidly released, a vast amount of ancient abyss power also awakening under a large-scale ritual. A great deal of pollution had already spread. While the powers of the present world were still resisting, soon the pollution would exceed the boundary. But what does any of this have to do with me, a lone bear? The Black and White Bear giggled again, gradually fading away. As if it were merely an old days GM, all matters connected with reality were irrelevant to it. Chapter 637. The Hustler's Contract. As time ticked away, in a place devoid of day and night, the perception of time was extremely vague. At this moment, Otto slowly straightened up and put down the forging hammer in his hand, wiping the sweat from his face. Finally got everything settled. Although nearly half of my spiritual energy and the crafting spiritual liquid have been consumed, and it seems like quite a lot of time has also passed. But it's actually quite refreshing. Otto looked at the research lab he had crafted with satisfaction. To be honest, Su Buxian had the most requests out of all the people he had met. But he found himself quite fond of the guy. Because all the items on the list that he had painstakingly built were not meant for pleasure. Although he didn't know whether they were for research or for crafting something, it was clear that this was a young man with positive energy. Should there be a need for assistance later on, he would be more than willing to lend his abilities. Otto got up, slightly replenished his spiritual energy, put away his forging hammer and headed deeper into the stronghold. He needed a rest now. Just then, a person walked out from the inside, looking utterly disheartened. He suddenly caught sight of this person, and with a surprised look on his face, said, "Mu, what's wrong with you? Why that look?" Mu also hails from the powerful demigod race, a minister of the night, rarely showing such an expression. Appearing destroyed to the point of numbness, disheartened. Mu looked at Otto, opened his mouth, clenching his fist in frustration, then let out a slight sigh. "Should I not mention it?" Otto's brows furrowed slightly. He could see that Mu's emotions were somewhat lost and there was a sense of being downtrodden, as if a rich young master had lost his entire fortune overnight, ready to stand at the edge of the rooftop overlooking below, pondering when to jump. Otto was puzzled. In truth, in this place for countless years, it was unusual for anyone to have such significant emotional fluctuations. But he was a good person and decided not to provoke Mu further. "Then I won't ask. Do you know where Su Buxian is? That new kid. The dwelling I customized for him is ready too. That kid will probably be thrilled to see it. After all, I've constructed it perfectly," Otto said confidently, stroking his big beard. But he didn't realize. Mu's entire face quivered. "You're looking for Su Buxian?" "He's in the gambling house in the rest area." Otto's brow wrinkled. "You guys, dragging a new kid, still full of vigor and passion, into lowly activities." He, too, was enthusiastic about many things and, like Deep Blue, still harbored the desire for new challenges, just lacking a good opportunity. "I've got to get that kid back," Otto cursed as he strode toward the recreational area. And upon arriving, he discovered many friends displaying the same dispirited demeanor as Mu, sighing at the entrance to the leisure area. "What's going on?" Otto couldn't help but frown. "Why do you all look like Mu?" And also, Otto noticed something else. He turned to a handsome and extraordinary young man. "Wait, Wan Yu, where's your divine crown?" The person before him was a prince of the divine dynasty, whose divine crown was not only his trump card but also a symbol of his identity, never once removed in countless years. He often said, "My head may break, blood may flow, but the divine crown must not be misplaced." But now he looked like a prince who had lost everything, utterly destitute. "And Ko, where's your atomic core from your chest?" Otto's gaze moved to another person in surprise. This person was covered with various high-precision mechanical prosthetics, and that atomic core was the vital source of his power. Now it was gone, leaving only an empty hollow in his chest. The two fell silent. They let out a mutual sigh. "Now we have nothing left." Otto watched the two walk away disconsolately, his brows deeply furrowed, wondering what had happened and why things seemed increasingly amiss. He looked toward the gambling house and was startled, because at this very moment, the entire gambling house was packed with people. "Why is a crowd gathered here?" Otto approached. "Excuse me, let me see what's going on." The crowd showed respect for Otto. After all, everything they now had was crafted by Otto with his own abilities. Each person wore a somewhat troubled expression but still made way for Otto. "Old Otto, you want to gamble too? I urge you to be calm," someone even advised out of concern. Otto's face darkened. "Gamble what? I'm here to see what's really happening, and where that kid Su Buxian is." "Him?" People's expressions turned somewhat resentful, yet they ultimately sighed. "He's sitting at the gambling table right now." Otto massaged his temples. "You guys, gambling amongst yourselves, I can understand, considering everyone had their own big backgrounds before coming here. But that kid Su Buxian, I heard from Wu that he's an ordinary newcomer with no background or connections, a 7th rank. Are you just bullying him? The crowd grew even quieter. Forget it. Otto sighed. I'm here to get the kid to do the right thing. And he walked inside. Then, he suddenly paused, because Su Chi was sitting in the dealer's seat, gambling with 5 or 6 others at the same time. Chapter 638. Behind Su Chi was a pile of various items, along with numerous notes. Started. Yes. The other party gritted his teeth. And the next moment, the other party stared intently at the dice on top. I lost. He uttered the 2 words as if he had been drained of all his strength. I have completely lost everything. Well, that's unfortunate, Su Chi said. Just use your spiritual energy to write down the previous content on this debt note. And then next, please. Ah! The person dejectedly got up, sighing as he vacated the spot. Otto was somewhat baffled. Wait a minute, what's with all this? It didn't seem like everyone was bullying the newcomer, but rather, this newcomer named Su Buxian was fighting battles on all fronts. And, moreover, the key point was that, after calling for the next person, no one else could take the seat. Everyone checked their own pockets and spatial bags and heaved deep sighs. Yo, big brother Otto. Su Chi also saw Otto and stretched out his hand to greet him. Have you finished building already? Otto massaged his forehead. Built? Yes, but what is all this about? How to put it? Divine, I spoke quietly from the side. He alone, he beat us all, and hasn't lost a single round up to now. Oh! Otto exclaimed in shock. How is that possible? He couldn't have cheated, could he? Hey! Su Chi's eyebrows raised. I could sue you for slander, you know? Just lucky, bro. Everyone's forehead turned dark. Lucky my ass. Divine, I sighed even deeper. It's not just about being lucky. Luck games are only part of it. Gambling with all kinds of games, skill-based games, various chess skills, intelligence, strategic confrontations. We were all beaten one by one. And in the end, we felt that the games of chance were our highest chance of winning. These words left Otto even more stunned. How is that possible? You all are top-notch existences one by one. Truth be told, the reason everyone wanted to gamble was because each person held outstanding and top-notch abilities in various domains. So aside from passing the time, it was also a way to ensure they retained their passion and competitive spirit. But unexpectedly, these people were beaten by Su Chi in every domain and aspect. And Su Chi was being modest about it, waving his hand. Nah, it was all because you let me win. Of course, if I must say it, a bit of natural talent, sweat, and effort does play a part. Su Chi gestured a tiny gap with his fingers. Everyone's faces darkened even more. Although they had only gambled for around 30 hours, they had got to know this Su Buxian fellow fairly well and knew that modesty wasn't exactly his thing. Yet they found nothing to retort, because their loss was too severe, and they had nothing to say. After all the methods of gambling, the confrontations, were conducted under the principle of fairness, with various restrictions, and there was no chance for cheating. And all the items that were bet also came with spiritual energy certification, a mark of their credibility, and they wouldn't betray that. All right, you all just got too carried away, betting so big one after another. Otto shook his head helplessly, pointing to the treasures behind Su Chi. Even giving away your most important possessions. How impulsive. Everyone opened their mouth but said nothing. Otto seemed to sense something was amiss. What else is there? Divine, I coughed. There's also our various estates outside, and a contract. Otto was silent, grinding his teeth. You guys, really? What is this contract? Don't get too worked up. Big brother Otto, it's not a sell-yourself contract. Su Chi reassured. It's just making them join my hustlers sect, to become a member of the hustlers, and though the time everyone signed for are different, they're all over 100 years. Otto's eyes bulged in shock. Isn't this freaking indentured servitude? He looked at the crowd. As one of the oldest beings here and the big brother to all, The crowd ultimately couldn't resist his questioning stare and bowed their heads one after another. However, Divine Eye seemed quite positive. Actually, it's not a big deal because we can't get out anyway, right? To tell the truth, the reason they were willing to make such a bet, to be so reckless, was partly because of this. It was a case of being resigned to breaking the jar. Su Chi hesitated for a moment. What, if you guys get out, you want to back out? But no need to worry, these people are not like those evil beings from the abyss, and these items all carry their own spiritual force, which is authoritative. This momentum of the strong is accumulated, saved up, to form the posture of the powerful. To go against it would actually diminish their spiritual force and turn them into mediocrity. Alright, it looks like nobody has, no one wants to make any more bets, so I'm gonna head out. Su Chi waved his hand. Members of the Hustlers sect, conserve your energy. See you later. Crowd. Otto, on the other hand, was looking at this scene, stroking his beard and showing a wry smile. You guys, it's time to learn from your losses. Disperse. Sure enough, every new guy wasn't simple. Su Buxian actually managed to make a lot of people suffer a big loss. It seemed unhelpful to the current situation at a glance, but it still managed to stir up everyone's vitality again. And Su Chi took everything into his item slot, including a large number of servitude. The Hustlers sect recruitment contracts. Just like that. Gotcha. And next, it was time to figure out a way to leave. Su Chi and Otto were walking on the road. He was listening to Otto while simultaneously communicating with Xiao Meng. Xiao Meng was fully activated and, just like a being from the present world, it seemed to have ascended. The entire calculation and ability had undergone a qualitative change. If previously Xiao Meng was an information quantity of a world level, now it was the massive information quantity of 50 world levels, improving 50-fold in all aspects from before. At the same time, some of the high-tech blueprints that couldn't be deciphered with the help of Xiao Meng were now being materialized and decoded. Master, crafting these items is difficult since the necessary materials are scarce and spread across a vast array of different worlds. Isn't using this blueprint a bit too challenging? Moreover, it's extremely difficult to control the items crafted from these blueprints. It requires time to familiarize. No worries, Su Chi calmly said. There are many extraordinary people here. Anything can be solved. Anything can be mastered. You just present the blueprints, and I'll paint the picture for everyone. Yes. Otto took Su Chi to the research lab. How is it? Su Chi looked at everything here, giving a thumbs up. Otto, my man, you're freaking awesome. You actually did it. This is exactly what I imagined. Su Chi couldn't stop praising. Otto, flattered by the compliments, stroked his beard and laughed heartily. Of course, I've poured a lot of effort into this. This place is my most invested project. With other creations, to be honest, he could easily craft them in less than half an hour. But for Su Chi's requests, the variety of items with detailed parameters required a great deal of attention to details to reach perfection. And although he might look unrefined, he loves delving into these perfect detail-oriented items, hence using a lot of strength. But he also enjoyed it greatly. And if you have any other requests, just let me know. Otto confidently slapped his forging hammer and laughed. I tell you, me and my hammer haven't been this addicted in a long time. The forging hammer emitted a dull roar, as if it was sentient, responding to Otto. Wouldn't it be a bit too much trouble for you, Otto, my man? Instead, Otto slapped Su Chi's shoulder. Kid, don't be shy with me. I don't like people who beat around the bush. Su Chi showed a smile. That's great. He slowly reached out his hand and, under Otto's stunned gaze, pulled out a stack of lists. Chapter 639. The Ingenious Use of Starfire. Otto stared at Su Chi, dumbfounded by the extensive list in his hands. No way. I told you not to be shy, and not only were you not shy, you were quite thick-skinned. It's like after a polite phrase, let's have dinner next time. You simply smile, wave your hand and say, no need, no need. Let's just say this time. Is there such a shameless person? Before, Otto thought there was no such person. After all, everyone else was quite polite. Now he wanted to slap his former self. Otto, buddy, please. Su-Chi smiled as he pushed the list toward Otto. Otto. I just remembered something urgent back at home. I'm unavailable today. He rubbed his head and was ready to flee. Don't rush. But Su-Chi held onto Otto's shoulder and forcibly pressed the list into his hands. Otto, buddy, at least take a look at the list first, so you know what to prepare for when you go back. Otto helplessly took it and immediately excused himself, dashing off. Su-Chi did not stop him. He knew Otto had already exhausted a lot and needed some time to rest, and besides, Su-Chi smiled, confident that once the guy saw the contents of the list, he would soon be unable to resist coming to him on his own. Nevertheless, Su-Chi had his own matters to attend to. His gaze fell on the research lab Otto had built, and he strode over to it. Before that, let's go into seclusion. Xiaomeng, prepare everything that's needed. Okay. Honestly, after the upgrade, Xiaomeng began to speak with more vitality, and Su-Chi wasn't sure if it was because they chatted often, but it seemed to have picked up some of his speaking habits. That's good. Su-Chi was pleased. Xiaomeng was learning the good stuff. Su-Chi quickly stepped into the lab. At the same time, the interface of the Super Dream protocol quietly appeared, with various blueprints flickering slightly and loads of data continuously converging. Then, in Su-Chi's hands, a Super Dream station was constructed, and he placed it on the ground. It began to rapidly build various circuits, connecting with everything around. This was the electronic shrine he had owned since his time in Evernight City, the Super Dream Child Protocol, and now, after Xiaomeng's ascension, the Super Dream Child Protocol also upgraded, and the shrine now possessed even greater strength than before. Even Xiaomeng could spend a little time to search for the signals of previously placed electronic shrines and establish contact. At present, this completely solved the pain point of the Hustlers sect. Widespread disciples scattered across numerous worlds were now able to connect. And according to Xiaomeng, the Super Dream Protocol had a huge potential for future growth, which was tied to Xiaomeng's own strength. Perhaps one day electronic shrines could enable teleportation between each other. At least Xiaomeng thought it was possible. All right, let's get busy. Before we challenge the being from the old days, let's get all the preparations done. Su-Chi wasn't sure what was down there, but more preparations were always good. He could see that everyone had only one, and it was a singular chance for an all-in gamble. Therefore, Su-Chi planned to drag everyone into the water with him to take that gamble. The Super Dream Child Protocol was in operation, and with the addition of the small production line in the lab, Xiaomeng took the helm personally as various blueprints were being constructed. He wasn't in a hurry, using his spiritual eyes to create some unique things for Xiaomeng to study. He then left himself out as the hands-off boss. At this moment, a voice rang out in his mind. Sect leader, we've encountered a problem. The voice belonged to Gon Wansue, and it carried a serious tone. What happened? Su-Chi was preparing for an excursion outside and paused slightly upon hearing their voice. It's like this. Their tone was a bit off. We seem to have encountered a group that looks like the Hustlers sect. Su-Chi paused, his mind immediately conjuring images of Bai Yilan and Jiang Ji. After all, in this extremely evil world, the only ones who could really count as official members of the Hustlers sect were those two. That's not right. Su-Chi paused slightly. Did you just say it was a group? Yes. Gon Wansue paused. It's a 100-strong team, and their strength is formidable, with a strong consciousness in battle. Su-Chi was puzzled. Go on. Among them is a figure clad in a long robe, who seems to be their guide, addressed by them as priest. Su-Chi raised an eyebrow. He knew who it was, Old Huang, and that 100 or so people must be the chosen ones rescued from the Rainbow Bridge incident. He had tricked Old Huang into coming here to become a priest of the Hustlers sect. While he had been hands-off all along, it seemed to be working out quite well now. And now Old Huang had led them here. Su-Chi smiled lightly. Looks like the plans for the Hustlers sect are about to start. It was like, As one is about to doze off, a pillow arrives. Just as he was recruiting troops, new forces had arrived. Su Qi hoped that old Huang had recovered somewhat during this time. Hopefully, he would be able to uphold the hustler's sex scene. Little did old Huang know what he would face, and at this moment, all he felt was unease, unaware that in the distance, a pair of eyes watched over him. Su Qi was packing up. Just have T0 follow them. There's no need to reveal yourselves for now. With old Huang there, they should be able to handle everything. Since T0 had found their own people, they should stick with them to avoid getting lost later. And with many deployments and with the help of old Huang and his crew, the plans for the Hustlers sect could be carried out more conveniently. Chapter 640. Of course, this plan was a spur-of-the-moment decision by Su Qi, one that naturally evolved after experiencing so much. The Abyss had its Venerable's plan. The present world had the Heavenly Destiny People's plan, both with strengths to revive, both with the strong support of ancient divine forces. And the so-called Hustler Sect's plan was simply to take this opportunity to establish a firm foothold. This was no easy matter. The Hustler Sect was linked to him, and he was linked to the evil god elder brother. Though he couldn't predict what would happen, it was certain not to go smoothly. As everyone said, once the prologue was pulled back and the many restrictions of the present world were lifted, then at that time there would be no place for ordinary people to stand. Only the truly powerful forces with real backgrounds could stand in the present world. All right, everything is arranged. Su Qi put away his thoughts and then gradually concealed his aura, directly entering the Holy Light Corridor. Brother Su. Just as he entered a room in the Holy Light Corridor, Anan cried out in surprise, "You've finally come." Since he was brought out, he had been here for a day and, to be honest, he still couldn't believe that he had left his original world. But all signs suggested that he should no longer be in the Gate world. And he had also asked Brother Su. Brother Su just told him not to rush, saying now was not the right time, and that there would be good things later that would need his help. Is it time to go out now? Anan looked at Su Qi with some hopes. Of course. Su Qi snapped his fingers. Now is the perfect time for us to adventure together. Follow me. Anan hesitated for a moment. Then he followed Su Qi, walking down the corridor. The space in the corridor was also moving in sync with the outside. The Holy Light Corridor could not only help avoid various physical attacks but also allowed Su Qi to infiltrate in this way. Of course, it was also easy to be detected, so he had to restrain his aura in advance. At that moment, Anan also saw his surroundings. Wait, what is this place? Has the outside world turned into this? There were chains everywhere, strange strongholds, and a crowd of people. Well, because the old days isn't that simple, so we need to do a few things before we can leave, said Su Qi after a pause. Anan's eyes narrowed. I understand. As a person of the old days, it's not easy for me to leave. All of this is because of me. I will do my utmost to resolve everything. Sorry, Brother Su. I've dragged you into this. Su Qi? ? He was about to give Anan a thumbs up. He had been thinking about how to go to that perilous pit of the old days for an adventure, given that Anan belonged to the ancient gate. Unexpectedly, Anan had already filled in the blanks himself. No problem, Su Qi waved it off. We are all in this together. I said I'd take you out, these are nothing. After all, you are the intern member of the Hustlers Sect Hierarch. Anan showed a touch of gratitude. Thank you, Brother Su. Listen to that. He's thanking us. Hey, no need to be so formal. Su Qi, leading him through the Holy Light Corridor, was already approaching the old days abyss. Anan couldn't help but look at the people around. Are they enemies? After all, Brother Su was sneaking close with him, indicating that he did not want these people to discover them. They are allies, Su Qi said calmly, but that's not important. We can't afford to be discovered. The abyss was unknowable, and the people were not to be discussed or remembered, viewing the pit as the current untouchable taboo. If he were found carrying various items obtained from them, preparing to experiment with a foray inside, they would probably all panic. Anan was kept in the dark but still followed Su Qi in a daze. He was still feeling a bit anxious and unsettled. After all, he had spent countless years in the Gate world, and now he was finally going to another place. The emotions were entirely different. So, he decided that whatever he was going to do next, he would put in his all-out effort. Of course, this thought only crossed his mind as he stood around the deep pit, before coming to an abrupt halt. Ready to go down. Su Qi was already prepared, ready to leap at any moment. Wait a second. Anan's eyes widened. Brother Su, wait. Calm down. This place is where the old days pervade. You're going in? Su Qi pulled out a leaf. It doesn't matter. I have this for protection. Anan immediately recognized it was a world tree withered leaf, having seen many before. But there's only one. What about me? Could it be possible that this world tree withered leaf is meant for you to use? Su Qi activated the leaf, and its power flickered, forming a protective barrier around Anan. What about you, Brother Su? Anan's eyes widened. Me? Well, since I was a little kid, haha, I've had a strong constitution. I can handle it. Oh. Anan was about to speak, but in the next moment, Su Qi dissolved the holy light corridor, and the two lost their levitation, plummeting straight into the pit. And the very next moment, Su Qi reached out his hand, and with a thunderous boom, a vast number of starfires appeared around him, millions of them forming an inseparable and thick light shield around him. Starfires enveloped him, and as predicted, the old days reacted upon their descent. The world tree withered leaf protected Anan, effectively concealing him. The old days did not detect him. But for Su Qi, a massive amount of the old days collided with his bright presence, questioning how such light could exist. A vast amount of the old days attempted to devour and erase him. However, they were powerless against the starfires, and they didn't affect Su Qi, who was shrouded within. Perfect! Su Qi snapped his fingers. The experiment is a success. Since he was previously able to remotely control the movement of the starfires, this idea had popped into his head. The starfires themselves could not be devoured or erased by the old days. They existed eternally. Although the old days furiously tried to wipe them out, they were utterly unsuccessful. And because of the huge amount of old days being blocked, or perhaps the starfires attracting their fire, Su Qi was completely unaffected by the old days' attempt to devour him. Moreover, Su Qi even found that the power to protect Anan had reduced its consumption, because the old days in that region had gathered around him. Of course, this was only for a short, few breaths. New old days quickly reconvened around Anan like replenished atmosphere. If one day, I could snap my fingers and summon countless starfires, I wonder if they could light up the entire old day point. Of course, this was just an idea after all, not to mention whether there would be a limit to the number of starfires ignited at one time, but saying to fill the vast and boundless old days. That was nothing but a fool's dream. All right, let's go. Su Qi and Anan quickly descended onto a staircase. The dense old days had no effect on them, and Su Qi led Anan downward. Apart from proving that enveloping starfires could prevent the old days from invading, he had other experiments to conduct. Next, Su Qi stretched out his hand, taking out a starfire. Note that it was taken out, not created. And within this cluster of starfires, a nanochip was being wrapped around. This was Xiao Meng's post-ascension integration into the most precious chip technology of the Heart of Divine Weapon. This chip was similar to the ones Bai Qixing had, but also different. The difference was that it had no consciousness. It was just a chip. The similarity, however, was that this chip could grow and upgrade. Su Qi embedded it within the starfire. Then he threw it down. He squinted, watching the ball of starfire slowly vanish from sight. The depths below were indeed unfathomable. Su Qi spoke gently. Xiao Meng, can you sense it? Unable to. It's too far. Need more relay. Okay. The next moment, Su Qi stretched out his hand, and a bunch more, hundreds of starfires, each embedded with a chip, appeared around him. Brother Anan, He said with an innocuous smile, "Sorry for the trouble that's about to come."